clothes lived a man known as the strongest. He was called the Master Swordsman. He was honored as the Lord of the Sword. He challenged himself to prove himself. At the same time, he wondered if he had reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship. It seemed that he had won. A certain someone replied that it is for real. It does not seem to him. He has undoubtedly won. So he has reached the top in swordsmanship. The dragon continued by saying that thinking that a guy killed someone as strong as him is the best. He is satisfied. He inquired if he had any desire. The guy is someone who managed to please him. And lastly, he wants to fulfill his wish. The protagonist decides he shouldn't, since he's going to die soon anyway. Besides, his wish has already come true and he is satisfied. What about magic? No, that has long been lost in their world. Besides, he doesn't need it. If he even survived, he wouldn't pursue it anyway. If only he had reincarnated or something. Then the dragon's desire became clear to him. The protagonist suddenly woke up. Now he realized the unpleasant feeling that had haunted him until that moment. He realized that he had been reincarnated. In any case, it didn't matter now. Indeed, it doesn't matter now. Now is the day he turns 6 years old. The day he learns his skills and abilities. These talents of a person not only let you know what you are good at, but they can also give you a chance to try things out. This is what his former world was deprived of. Skills and abilities is essentially a way of determining current and future potential. The boy met his sister saying good morning. Her name was Lena. He wished her the same. She wished him a happy birthday and asked him to do his best today. It seemed to the boy that he didn't have to do anything today. But still she told him to try not to get overexcited. Soma admitted that actually, he is more interested than excited. Considering that he's the older brother, Lena wouldn't be surprised if he has 3 and 4 skills. But Soma is just happy that he will soon be able to use magic. Yes, magic. He wants to be able to use magic. The protagonist dreamed of it while he was still in that world. When he learns his skills, he can start learning magic. He is concerned that he might not be able to handle the excitement. Lena is also eager to learn what kind of magic he will be able to use. Soma wants to know what skills he has. His mother's words shocked him and she decided to repeat. About his skills, whether it is martial arts or magic skills or something else, he will never master anything. So he is talentless and has no talents. Soma once told his teacher that he wanted to be able to use magic. She replied that if that's what it's all about, then no problem. He will definitely learn. So he has no talents. It's not that big of a deal. That's the one that fits. The boy was called a genius, although he didn't think he was. He passed the school program in 6 months, even though it takes 3 years. And he is only 5 years old. It's not like that. He already knew everything in advance. He never thought about whether he was a genius. Considering the fact that he was reincarnated, he still had all his past memories and knowledge. But being untalented means he'll never be able to use magic. Will he have to give up the magic he so wildly wanted to master? No, there must be something. An opportunity, if he remembered correctly. Speaking of skills as a manifestation of some talent, not having talents didn't necessarily mean being talentless. Anyone can swing a sword, even someone with no talent. And there have even been references to people who have not mastered skills defeating people with talent. Though it might have been just an exception, it was still true to this day. Whether it is an exception or not is as far as it goes. He accepts a challenge in another world, exactly like that day, with a dragon. With only a stick in his hands, he aims at a 100-year-old grape tree. And this boy, whether it's spear throwing, or archery, or hand-to-hand combat, or magic, or even basic skills, he won't be able to master anything, not even a sword. He only has this useless and incomprehensible sound skill. The boy saw that with this even he would be able to use magic. Earlier, the strongest in the world. All that was left was to figure out exactly how he would use magic. Naturally, it would happen. Soma fell to the ground. One girl miraculously found him. The girl thought she had no talent, but the sinister forest is just as impressive as she expected. Not a soul around. She made the right choice in coming here. The girl heard a strange sound. Nothing would change if she just thought, better go check it out. She heard a tree fall. Could it be here? Demons were rumored to appear in the sinister forest. She came here because she was sure she would meet absolutely no one. But why is this happening? The girl thought that someone had come to attack her, but apparently that is not the case. But what's going on? The cut was too smooth, it didn't look like rotting. She heard someone's voice and was scared out of her wits. Confused, the girl stepped on someone's head. She did not expect to meet a child here and hesitantly said hello. She asked to say something, seeing that he was not moving and presumed dead. Soma asked to stop stomping on him. She was surprised that he was alive. He replied that she wouldn't have killed him like that. He just can't move for some reason. It's hard to explain. Skills from his past life, though he was able to use them. Using them without training might be too reckless. The girl wondered what he was doing in a place like this, as she sees, lying there unmoving. But what she meant was how he got to this point. The girl assumed he was hurt, but he seems energetic. Soma replied that he could move his mouth, but that was all he was capable of right now. But if he rested for a day or two, he would probably be fine. She was surprised that he was going to stay in such a state in the middle of the forest. No matter how it looks, he's suspicious, and even alone. She should not interfere. The girl offered her help. Soma doubted that she could. Doesn't want to be helped. She explained that by refusing, he would leave a bad impression of himself. He'd better be grateful. The boy told her thank you. She was embarrassed by how close he was to her. She wondered who this boy was. Alone in the ominous woods, she told him not to put all his weight on her. He was too heavy. Soma screwed up. His muscles ached even though he felt like he was going to collapse. He thought he wouldn't be able to move at all anymore. Good thing he had help. Speaking of which, he still doesn't know her name. If they meet again, he should thank her. Camille Henfield, a girl with a unique ability to evaluate skills, entered the room. She noticed that the boy looked much better and asked if anything was bothering him. But he replied that it was nothing much, just tired. Camille doesn't think she can help with that. In that condition, he can't read a book either, if even she brings one. But it is enough for the boy that she visits him every day. Speaking of which, Mom only came to visit on the first day. She still seems to be concerned about it. Soma suggested that the girl give him some tasks. She's a teacher. Camille doesn't know how much he's learned so far, but the boy didn't think it was a problem. He's only interested in magic, and he doesn't know anything about it yet. Something still made her doubt. Soma complimented that he would do anything for information about magic. Then the teacher decided to prepare a task for him that the boy would look forward to. After a week, Soma finally recovered. Now he began to wonder what he should do. It was still early in the morning. Then now the boy decided to start his routine. Need to get his weakened body back into shape. Camille thought, good, of course, that she had become a homeschooler, but why was it bringing more trouble than she expected? It all started with the skills assessment. All she did was assess, but she was not happy with the result. His life is ruined. He was the heir to the House of Dukes, but now he is not even allowed to exist. If he had not been born in this country, if he had not been born in this family, if the result of the evaluation had been different, he could have lived a happy life. Since then, Camille felt bad about the result. She decided to become his personal tutor, a substitute for the many teachers that had gone before. And the problem was to find out what he had already learned. She was given 10 years worth of books to read. The girl couldn't believe that the teachers hated him. What had he done that was so wrong? What should she do with his lessons? She realized that thinking about it would do no good. Camille decided to take a little distraction as she suddenly met Soma. He said hello to the teacher. What a coincidence that they met. Even though it was indeed a coincidence, she wondered what he was doing here. The boy replied that he was just going about his usual business. Camille realized that he had visited this place before. Hadn't his mother told him not to go to this place? She did tell him, but he did not remember agreeing. The girl thought this place is not as dangerous as people think, but immediately she remembered that he was not allowed to go outside. She didn't understand how he had managed to bypass the guards and come here. Since she asked, he calmly replied that he just skipped along like he always did. Camille surmised that his guards had begun to treat him more lightly after assessing his skills. Either way, she thought, it must be hard for him to just stay home. She was just thinking about training suggested he go with her. She is interested in his daily life. Soma didn't see anything special about swinging a sword. She offered him her help in wielding the sword. Camille does not seem suited for this role, for she is not bad with axes. In that case, Soma is ready. Though swords are not her specialty, he is in pretty good shape. While they are here, she suggested a little practice. Just light sparring, she won't harm him since he's still recovering. Besides, unlike his wooden sword, this is a real axe. It allows him to make the first strike. Soma accepts her offer, and the girl tells him to attack. Camille suddenly finds herself on the ground, which shocks her. Soma thought she was giving in too much. She had said it would be light sparring, but it didn't even amount to that. The girl laughed awkwardly and apologized for it, not realizing what had happened herself. She thought he would be in bad shape since he was still recovering. Naturally, she was not vigilant. Despite this, he asked her not to restrain herself so much. It is also natural that she restrained herself. One cannot overcome the difference between advanced axe skills and no skill at all. That's how it should be. This time, she decided to fight for real. To have advanced skills in anything is to be a genius at it. However, for a child who has no skill at all, it must be some kind of mistake. Camille had planned to do only light training, but this guy is a strain. Yeah, that's right. She knows. Every cell in her body tells her, all her experience and intuition tells her, that she needs to give it her all. A kid, no skills, it doesn't matter. For this guy, that swordsman, Camille saw that Soma seemed to want her to make the next move. He is defiant. The girl did her best to show off her skills. The once sweet Camille went into a frenzy, hoping she would defeat the boy, but he calmly repelled her attacks. The battle grew increasingly tense. It was beginning to amuse. If he can stop that battle axe with a wooden pole, then how much potential does this guy hold? A dumbass fighting against a battle-hardened warrior with an axe. But the differences in skill are absolutely undeniable. Otherwise, the skills could be. And then the skill assessment is wrong. The girl pulled herself together again. There was a titanic impact. The battle goes on for 5 minutes. She was speechless. They're not on the same level. Therefore, she is forced to strike each time. Camille once ruined a young girl's life, and gave up the duty of evaluating skills for that reason. Despite the fact that she knew everything, Sophia remained her friend. She offered to put the past behind her and move forward. And now, her life and her son's. If skill and skill evaluation are unreliable, the fact that her evaluations ruined his chances. If it was wrong, he will despise her. Soma finally concluded that she was caught. The girl had clearly not expected this. She couldn't stand it and fell to the ground. The boy, while underneath her, admitted that it was impertinent of him and he was ashamed. The last blow was a strange one. She inquired if he had even put any effort into it. Soma admitted that he had gotten distracted. Camille realized the reason was that he had forced himself without curing himself before. But Soma thinks he's already rested. The girl realized what he was getting at and couldn't wait any longer. Her break is over. As he sees it, she has to get back to work. It's not fair to leave so easily, being the leader, but if she has a job, he let her go. The girl apologized. The boy wanted to say that she had been lying on him all this time. Camille decided she needed to teach him respect for women first, though she was still pinning him down. That's when Camille comes back. She advised him not to come to this forest and not to be late for class. Soma said not to worry about it. The boy realized that he was completely useless. He let himself get distracted and let the sword go. Looks like he still had a lot to learn, doesn't he? He already knows it's there, no need to hide anymore. Peeking out from under the tree, the girl asked how he knew. Soma knew she was there, that's why he just did. Anyway, it had been exactly a week since they had met. He wanted to thank her again, she had saved him back then. The girl, on the other hand, thought he shouldn't thank her. Out of embarrassment, she turned away. But Soma just did. The boy thinks that's all he can do. Yes, and he should. He remembered that he still didn't know her name. He didn't ask, so she didn't say. There's a reason he'd appreciate it if she told him. His name is Soma, but she can call him whatever she likes best. It's just that if he needed to call her, he would need to know her name, that's all. If it bothers her a lot, she can make up an alias. The girl replied that she was Aina, but he could call her whatever he wanted. Then he decided to call her just Aina, which surprised her. Soma reminded her that she had said to call her whatever he liked. But if it was a problem, he could call her differently. The girl replied that it was not really a problem. In that case, she would do the same and call him Soma. She was annoyed by his calmness. Nothing. Anyway, they would just finish what he was talking about. The boy didn't understand why she was so angry. Anyway, as he had said, if she got into a difficult situation, she could let him know. He would help her in any way he could. Soma explained that she helped him last week. He means he will pay her back someday. She, on the other hand, said that he doesn't owe her anything. Aina explained that she just helped him because she felt like it. Soma knows. That's why he wants to thank her and pay her back. He wants to. The girl smiled. He had been thinking about it since their first meeting and he was right, the smile really suits her. Aina asked him to do it again. Soma means to be frank, he thinks she is cute when she smiles. The girl was very embarrassed to hear such words. Soma simply stated that she is really cute. She is objectively cute when she smiles. Aina asked him to stop. Newmont House. The boy discovered something strange with the teacher. Camille asked him not to worry. She thought it would be a good idea to check on him personally, but was shocked that he had read all those books. He had really gone that far. When he asked her what was wrong, she replied that it was nothing at all. Now, as to their lesson. First, Camille suggested starting with his connection to this house. She means its history, local geography, and the like, which the boy immediately understood. The girl thinks of starting with the Wicked Forest. Soma noticed that she travels a lot. At any rate, she asked if he knew why it was called the Wicked Forest. It is actually very simple. This forest marks the border of the mages' territory. Long ago, mages used to wander here and started their invasions from here. It's a surprisingly dangerous place, isn't it? They've been talking for a long time. But is he implying that going there now is safe? As the boy expected, he saw no sign of mages in this forest. He means there wasn't even a trace. It was a quiet place at the moment. He wondered why such an elegant house was built in such a remote place, but if you think of it as a frontier, it makes sense. It seems that his family is the one that was tasked with controlling the front line. Camille saw that he was grasping on the fly. She didn't even teach him the types of royal families. Soma thought it was just curious. The girl bet one of his former teachers mentioned it. He thinks this place is just like his old world. Camille inquired how much roughly the boy knew about mages. He recalled that they were rumored to be enemies of humanity. Besides, he wasn't sure. It sounded like the usual stuff they tell children, but Camille knew it wasn't. Soma assumed that then they were just some outsiders or heretics. For some reason, they couldn't help but turn against their country. Together with some other exile groups, they were able to unite and form a single collective, an enemy nation. Sighing, Camille recognized that it sounded right. She could see that he was a bright boy. He's good at the unthinkable. Of course, his former teacher was impressed by that too. That's why they didn't tell her anything, so that she could evaluate his ability without prejudice. Thanks to the messy duel they had, she had to experience it for herself, for better or worse. At any rate, the mages are just as he described. However, they are definitely dangerous. For the most part, these guys have a high skill level. That's what is assumed, because of the feeling of how they fight in battle. It's said that you need an intermediate skill to fight the lowest level mages. Ordinary soldiers wouldn't stand a chance. Something confused Soma. It was just that she had said that they didn't match, but to immediately assume that their skill level is higher because of that. Of course, there is the option that they are strong, but they don't know if they use any special skills or black magic. That's another mystery. So, they concluded that they are stronger. It seems that that country just considers the skill level of magicians as an absolute fact. To avoid being reduced to a small, needy country, people were organized based on their skills divided into joint spheres. And as a result, skill became the basis of human affairs. Soma realized that if the eldest son of the royal family charged with governing the border area of the country had no skill, naturally it was not acceptable. Camille replied that it was right. That's why he has the right to hate her. The boy did not understand why. The girl explained that if she had come to her senses in time and was able to make a decent result, his life was not over, he would have been able to stay with his family. Soma realized what she meant. He should hate her for not cheating. That's a bit excessive, not to mention illogical. Besides, this assessment doesn't make much difference. Camille didn't understand why. It had changed his whole life. The boy replied that, as he had said earlier, he was not interested in anything but magic. In fact, no, he shouldn't say it didn't matter. Rather, he should perhaps thank her. Thanks to her, he had been freed from his domestic situation. So, now he could focus on learning magic. The girl understood him and smiled. Camille thinks, just as he hoped, she should learn all the ways to study magic. 1 year later, Soma practiced summoning magic again. But nothing happened as usual. Lena seemed to have seen him do it more than 100 times. To be honest, nothing had changed. The boy thought that he had learned a lot by doing this. The thing was, without any prior research, he found it to be a complete dead end. Lena thought it sucked. From the beginning, Soma knew it would be a challenge to learn magic. And it's just as he expected. So he can continue like this even without getting any results because he does as he wants. Lena suddenly asks if he thinks the effort expended is worthwhile. Soma thought that if meaning meant something that depended on success, then if it did not bear fruit, after all, it was meaningless. The girl agreed. No matter how much effort is put in, it is useless. Soma recognized this is true if they are talking about value. However, finding the value of that effort is a different topic, whether it has an effect or not. This criterion is just one possible basis for a value system. A single act can link a great number of things. It is possible that a dead-end connection may be very valuable. There are many such cases in this world. Lena is not sure if she understands what he is saying or not. Soma assumed that he did not express himself clearly. To give her a concrete example, today's practice made sense, but he didn't think he would accomplish anything. The girl was very surprised, but Soma was sure that today's routine had value. The value is this: he was able to deepen their relationship by talking about it. Lena blushed with embarrassment. During that year, her interest became part of his daily life. Soma wondered if that vulnerable expression meant that he had finally earned her trust. So far she had let him do most of the talking, and understandably she was careful with him. Aina realized that he was just waiting for her to relax. Soma recognized that. Otherwise, they would not be able to talk honestly. The girl believes he is right. She is a dubious figure. If she were in his shoes, she would consider herself suspicious. But the boy did not mean that he was suspicious of her. Aina replied that it was all right. After all, she should have known that he would understand. Abruptly changing the subject, she complimented that she just wanted to know what was bothering him. Either way, he could see that she had something on her mind. He suggested, hadn't he said he would lend a hand if anything happened? Soma was just waiting for that opportunity. Sighing heavily, Aina decided to tell. They call her a total loser. It was at the time Soma was undergoing an aptitude evaluation. She was undergoing evaluation too. It's like part of adulthood. And she had failed. As he realized, she meant she had no ability. Turns out her test results were good. A mage, a special class. That skill had been discovered in her. Soma thought she was bragging, but it wasn't true at all. The boy was joking, but he still doesn't understand why she was called useless. Aina revealed that people were excited that she had such a special talent. The day before the celebration, it became clear that she could not use magic. It is not a skill she will eventually learn by knowing other. Clearly, if you have an ability, you can use it instantly. The research of magic hasn't really advanced in this country. That may be the reason. Soma thought it was strange that she couldn't use magic, but still, it was clear now why they called it useless. But he wondered what it looked like from the outside when she tried to use it. Aina decided to show him. The boy watched her carefully. Everyone reassured her that she was doing everything correctly, and they were all surprised when the spell didn't work. After that, she studied a lot of things and tested various things, but to no avail. 3 days passed, a week, a month, but all for nothing. And even now, Soma realized what the problem was. There was one thing he wanted to be sure of. No one knew why she couldn't use magic, which meant they hadn't found something strange. The girl thinks they did. They said that if they had found something, they would be sure to fix it. As Soma realized, she means that they didn't detect anything at all, or that no one had even noticed it. The boy suggested cutting it open and they would see everything. Aina didn't understand what he was saying. The girl was shocked at what he had done. Soma saw that she should be alright, but what now? The first thing he suggested was to try using magic again. Aina didn't expect it would actually work. Now there was some flame. The girl tried it again. Bursting into tears, she thanked him. She doesn't know what he did, but he sure did something, so thank him. Soma asked her to stop crying, then he would be happy too. So he not only solved Aina's problem, but also made good progress. He had a question for the teacher. The boy asked if it was true that magic was something where there could be no decline. The girl replied that yes, that is what they say. But still I must say that it depends on how much effort you put in. Soma realized that when you use magic, the concentration stays the same. For example, you won't be able to repel an attack or defend yourself if you don't have enough skill level. In that case, you'll just dodge. But it was only recently that he had seen the decline of magical powers with his own eyes. And she's at the highest level of magic proficiency. She's a special class, so there must be a reason why the spell didn't work. Camille explained that there are exceptions here. People of special classes ignore the simplest principles. So there's nothing to be surprised about. These things happen too that can't be explained in simple words. Soma thought about it. Camille thought he had another crazy idea. The boy doesn't know what she means by saying another one. But if special classes wonder incredible things, then, as she says, they are able to teach him magic. Which means she can teach him magic. Aina didn't understand how he came to that conclusion. Special class people in particular are unusual, but he knows she was able to use magic yesterday, right? If he's asking her to teach him something she doesn't understand. But still, he considered it a fact that she used magic, so it would be great if she taught him what she could. Aina decided that if he meant that she owed him for yesterday, it seemed she had no choice. She told him to get up as usual. Then, while charging his palm with magic, he should say something. Soma interrupted her. He asked if charging the palm with magic was magic power. Aina explained that magic is just magic. But if he couldn't concentrate magic in his hand, how was he going to use it? Soma realized that if he couldn't feel it, he still wouldn't understand it. If only it were possible to feel it. Aina has a bad feeling about this too. What's he going to do? Soma just thinks he'll figure it out if she hits him with all her magic, that's all. The boy spoke in complete earnest. The girl saw that there was no point in saying anything. He wouldn't listen anyway. Everything will go fine, but it will hurt a little. Aina let the fire out. It must show its power in accordance with her will, vaporize the dust, the one that stands in her way. As expected, he doesn't really get it. Shocking him, Aina unleashes a fiery arrow. But if Soma cuts her open, he can. His actions also left her impressed. The boy thinks his usual plan didn't work. He should think about it more seriously. Aina asked indignantly if he knew what he had done. Soma thought that he had merely dissected her spell. The girl decided that he was of a special class since he couldn't dispel magic just like that. That's what she thinks, but he did it. What he means is that it's no different from cleaving the air. Aina is sure that it's more impossible than cleaving the air. Soma sighed that it didn't bear fruit either. He must think of something. He met his sister. The girl acted insecure around him and addressed him by name. Soma is glad she looks good, but he doesn't mind if she calls him brother. Lena replied that she couldn't do that. He noticed that she looked tired and suggested that she go outside. How long had it been since they had gone outside together? The girl was shivering. Why don't they do it again? Sensing the tension, Lena addressed him in a different tone. She's glad for his concern, but despite the generous invitation, she just doesn't have time for such things. He, too, should get rid of useless pursuits. How about something more productive? She was insecure. She has every minute counted, so asked her to forgive her. He told Camille everything. Soma thinks this period of time was difficult for her or she grew to hate him and he didn't see it. Let him tell it to her anyway. Camille thought it did come out sideways. She doesn't think he can't get it under control. On this day, everything changed. Lena's 5th birthday was going to go as smoothly as it always had. This year it was to be the happiest of all. Finally finished evaluating Soma's skills. The brother she had hoped to see develop in both the military craft and the arts. She thought that now he would not only be influential but also have brilliant skills. The girl wondered where Soma was, and she began to look for him. She decided to turn to her mom. As soon as Lena mentioned Soma, the woman told her to come into her office. She stated that therefore the girl could now assume that her brother no longer existed. No, he never existed. Lena tried to behave with restraint. On this day, all her childhood hopes had been shattered into small pieces, and she still has the same dream in which she chases, almost disappearing into the bushes, the figure of her brother the day he left the estate. She knows she shouldn't dream it, but she can't control the curiosity she feels at his eagerness to leave. And his figure deep in the woods. The girl is approached. The disgruntled teacher asked if she was listening to her. Lena replied that she was listening. The woman said that peace had been achieved in their country because of her father and mother. The teacher decided that if she was listening, it was good, but asked her to get ready. Of course, if she didn't want to become like that untalented. Lena interrupted the woman and asked her to pick up her words. That person doesn't exist. The teacher agreed. Therefore, she must become an exceptional leader. As the heir to the Newmont family, Lena understands this very well. Originally, Soma was supposed to be in her place, but he doesn't have what it takes. The teacher concluded that fortunately, as her skills show, Her Highness was able to show an impressive amount of natural talent. According to her special class, she is a swordsman, the same skill as the greatest swordsman of all time. Her father, Sir Klaus, fencing. At the same time, he too caught fire at it. It was all misguided and untrue. And yet, she couldn't pretend as if nothing had happened. As the heiress of the family, Lena must not consider his existence, because her family decided so. The more absurd that decision seemed, the worse she endured the thought of him being a carefree elf. The girl can't give in to that. Her memories, her affection, even if she destroyed every last one of them, she still can't get rid of it. Yes, get rid of it. If she did, if she could really get rid of everything, that would be wonderful. Lena followed Soma through the woods, just as she thought. Now that they had come to this point, Soma couldn't think of anything better. Lena wondered who it was he was talking to, talking about experiencing magical powers. Aina thought that even so, he still couldn't just stand a pillar in the place where someone was casting a spell. It seemed like he was about to be roasted there. Watching this, Lena felt a great deal of irritation. As she was eavesdropping on them and wondering who it was, a rustling noise was heard, which Soma noticed. The girl immediately hid, noticing how he had just looked in that direction. She couldn't believe it. Even at the estate, no one had noticed her. She remembered that he had seen her that time too. But Lena tried to reassure herself that this time it was definitely just a coincidence. Aina immediately realized as if something was wrong, and Soma didn't know how to explain. He asked if she thought there was someone else here besides the two of them. After looking around, Aina decided that there was no one else here. The boys both stared intently toward the bushes. The boy pointed confidently toward his sister. Aina was surprised. Until this moment, she was sure that no one was there. Lena didn't expect him to actually notice her. She awkwardly greeted him. Soma suggested having a little competition like they had done before. The girl nodded. In that case, he asked Aina to step back a bit. Wooden stick. This is the stick he uses to practice fencing. If that's the case, Lena realized that he hadn't changed at all. Just like before, Soma still didn't understand anything. That time, full of confidence, he had performed those silly dances. Yes, just like before. His stance is hardly a stance at all. Posing like that, he'll realize how ridiculous it looks to someone like her who's been practicing fencing for a long time. How pathetic, isn't it? Nevertheless, Lena will end his unsightliness anyway. The duel between Soma and Lena has begun. Lena was the first to speak. Special class, whose power is beyond comprehension. A power that only a few possess, associated with calamity. So she'll at least let him live. Even if he uses a stick, it can still easily stab into flesh. The girl was close to a successful attack, but her attempt failed, which shocked her. Lena couldn't believe it. To have someone who is not a special class get in her way. It can't happen because of a miracle or luck. Soma, with a sigh, reminded that they were just playing right now. But this made her more and more angry, and she decided that he was mocking her, and jumped up sharply and approached him. The girl threw a punch, but he was calm. There was no way Lena could believe it. This wasn't supposed to happen, because if this was the way it was coming out, then everything was a mistake. Soma's skills, her situation, her behavior. Lena again tried to put all her strength into the blow. Soma concluded that it wasn't bad, but still needed to practice. The girl could not stop. For a whole year, everyone encouraged her. Adults, teachers, mother, but she wasn't really happy. The boy would like to ask something. Maybe she didn't have enough experience in sparring with another person. Lena agreed with him, and that was because no one was even close to her special class level. And because of that, she realized that she must be jealous. The fight was still going on. Lena worked hard for a whole year. She had endured so much, and even improved her sword skills herself. Soma noticed that it wasn't bad, but her last movement gave away where she was aiming. The girl decided that it was all for nothing. This whole year had no meaning. It couldn't be. Lena was sure she could do it now. She squeezed the last of her strength out of herself. Soma managed to repel her again. The exhausted Lena fell to the ground. She had indeed lost. The boy admitted that this last attack was simply marvelous. To be honest, it was pretty close, and she had become a good swordsman. He was confident that she had talent. At this moment, the girl's heart melted. He said that she had a talent for swordsmanship. She realized that her wish that day, her memories, they were true. Her older brother was really her older brother. Soma realized that it was still quite important to have someone to spar with, and he feels like he's starting to deflate. But it's pretty hard without a partner, right? He wondered what if he had a partner he could train with. Lena suddenly turned to him. She decided to be his partner. Then Lena got ready to go home. Lena thought it was because of her, but she replied that it wasn't. Soma was upset because he wanted to try a couple more things. Lena decided that since he started trying stupid things like putting magic in his head, so that was it for today. Soma thought that was what he always did. The girl explained that if he kept messing around with dangerous things over and over again, the chance of something bad happening would increase. Soma figured that if he couldn't learn magic by doing ordinary things, a little risk wouldn't hurt. Lena remarked that that was what he was all about. Lena saw that they were similar in that. The boys said goodbye and arranged to meet tomorrow. Lena recognized that this was surprising. Special class. A person with this level of technique could be called gifted. But beyond that, the very fact that Soma was able to easily overpower her. Although Lena is a special class, a mage like her wouldn't be able to resist a swordsman like Soma. But the boy wanted her to teach him how to use magic. A smirk appeared on her face. She was glad she had met Soma. Until recently, something like this. Someone had finally found her. The guy had to look for her. He didn't think he'd find her in a place like this. The girl recognized Albert. He noticed that a lot of time had passed. It turned out that Lena was a princess. Society hid in the shadows and ruled from beneath it. One of its members told the others what he himself had witnessed a couple of days before. Then they decided it was time to come out of the shadows. All for the king of mages. Lena and Soma practiced combat together. The girl was surprised that she could get him to block her attack. It was wonderful. The boy didn't see the point if she stopped there. Lena was only thinking about how to force him to put up a defense, but no more. If she realized that, he thought she had scraped together a passing grade. But it looked like it would take some more time before she could hit it. The girl was confident that she definitely could. When she could, she would demonstrate. Soma hoped so. He apologized to Lena for keeping her waiting. The girl replied that she wasn't waiting at all. Their battles are quite interesting to watch. Lena sees no point in lying. She wouldn't sit with them just to keep them company. Still, Soma realized that she had wasted a lot of her free time while she was sitting here. Lena didn't deny it. Then he had a suggestion. Time is priceless, and so it should be used wisely. Maybe she should think of a signal in case she was kidnapped. The girl didn't know what he was talking about. For starters, a situation where she would need that signal wouldn't happen soon, right? but Soma realized that it was important to be prepared for the worst. Lena wondered if he would have rescued her even if he knew she had been kidnapped. The boy was sure of it. The girl was embarrassed again and thought he was joking. This is discouraging, he felt annoyed. If she had been kidnapped, he would have saved her no matter what. Lena apologized and turned away from him. Searing her with his gaze, he replied that she had done nothing wrong. The girl decided to end this conversation and left abruptly. Lena immediately wondered what her brother would do if they stole her. He would save her, after all. This question seemed rather difficult for him, and she didn't understand why. To be more precise, she is training to be able to defend herself against such people. Lena concluded that if she wanted him to save her, she needed to stop training. Lena realized that it didn't seem like it, but she had only been messing things up lately. It seemed like they were talking about mages last time. Camille suggested that they continue their discussion. That information would still be useful to him. He just has to listen. So Soma understands what the term humanity means. The boy understood that it is used in relation to all humanoid races. First it is humans, then half-humans, forest spirits, monsters, and vampires. All 5 races, beginning with humans, are humanity. She asked if he knew why they were called humanity. Soma admitted that he did not know. At first he thought they were called that because of their appearance, but then it is not clear why dead souls are not included. She replied that it's pretty simple. It depends on whether the race has its own country or not. Soma understood why dead souls were not counted. It's not like they can't make their own country, and it applies to phantoms as well. Although, there's still the question of whether they should be counted as a separate race. Soma decided that it seemed to be the same situation with the dwarves. Camille explained that things are a little different with the dwarves. There are so few gnomes that they don't necessarily count as a separate race, including purebloods. The boy decided that was one of the reasons the teacher was here, and she didn't understand what he meant. He replied that she was, after all, a dwarf, and most likely a pureblood. Camille admitted to being surprised. She didn't think he would be able to tell. Soma thinks that everyone can figure it out if they think a little. People don't think that an endangered race could be right in front of their eyes. And she also glosses over the fact about its very slow growth a little bit. They got a little off topic, so she suggested they get back on track. The girl asked how he thought the word humanity was created in the first place. He thought she meant it was created for a specific purpose, which meant magicians were involved. That turned out to be correct. The magicians are the ones who officially created the designation. But rather, before the mages were created, if one race disagreed with another, they were in serious trouble. They soon realized that at this rate they would destroy each other sooner or later. This happened when hobbits were on the verge of extinction. Therefore, mages were created to stop these disagreements, a race that would be the enemy of humans. It was a stupid idea, wasn't it? And it didn't even affect the disagreement in any way. Soma inquired why the story would be useful to him. The girl replied that the reason was because he would definitely leave the country and start his journey. The boy did not understand why that would be. She explained that as long as there was a place in the world where he could learn to use magic, he would surely go there. And that place would surely be inhabited by magicians. Soma realized she meant for him not to make the wrong choice of friends. In the meantime, he still wouldn't be able to do anything yet until he was an adult. Lena felt confused. She was a total loser, disappointed everyone, and then ran away. Albert asked if she was going to return to the reality of a Mage King soon. Albert is one of the 4 strongest mages, divine commanders, the god of death. They are called gods because of their high positions. To think that someone like him needed her, a total loser, a disappointment. Past Lena would surely agree to come back and be happy, but she remembered her friends. Albert waited for her decision. Guy thinks he has come at the right time, but what about her? The princess apologized. She wasn't making fun of him, just wondering why she was worrying about such a trifle. It was time to voice her answer. Albert apologized for the delay. As commander of the mages, he proclaims the beginning of the execution of the plan. The others realized that they would be its initiators, but unfortunately, it's not as smooth as they would have liked. They must execute the plan on the same day they started. Everyone here must realize this, it is not their fault. And this delay was also necessary to fulfill the plan. If she had cooperated with them in any way, everything would have gone smoothly. But if they rushed it, quality would suffer. Albert will bring her here. He'll leave the rest to them. All for the king of the Magi. Lena is bored. Suddenly someone behind her ordered her not to move. That person was Lena. Lena was agitated and suggested to stop it since she didn't like this kind of thing. Especially, didn't she say that she would come here tomorrow? Lena said that, but she wanted to surprise her big brother, so she came today. It seems like her brother isn't here yet, so that'll do too. Lena decided she meant surprise her, not her brother. Well, she did surprise her, but had the joke gone too far? Lena wondered what made her think it was a joke. What was odd about her pointing her sword at a mage? Lena is so defenseless. The girl didn't understand what she meant. Lena replied that if it wasn't her, she would have been killed by now. Lena should always be on guard when coming here. Lena was surprised that she wouldn't kill her. Of course, Lena does feel aloof sometimes because she is socializing with her brother, but because of that, she won't kill her. Then Lena indignantly asked what was now. Lena replied that naturally it was a joke. No, better to say, it was a warning. As a mage being here, Lena should always be on guard. Her brother and her didn't think about her safety even being in her vicinity. As for her brother, he would somehow manage without being alert. Lena kept meaning to tell her that, and it was a good thing she was alone tonight. Lena asked not to scare her like that again. Lena has quite a complicated character. As she said, it wasn't a joke, and it wouldn't have the same effect without scaring her. Lena realized that she was right about something. Still, Lena asked her to be careful. If someone found her, then it would be. Something strange prevented the girl from speaking and pushed her away with great force. Lena was shocked to see Albert. He coldly said goodbye with a shockwave. The guy abused Lena. Lena tried to explain to him that he had misunderstood. She didn't mean to hurt her. Therefore, he didn't need to save her. Albert replied that he could have done so. If he had done it sooner, she would have experienced more despair. It was even embarrassing somehow. There seems to be no need for it. He thinks all his good deeds should be thanked for that. No, should we call it a direction from the Mage King? The princess didn't understand what was wrong with him. He asked her not to worry. It seems that this girl might still be of use to them, and he wouldn't kill her. As he said, the Mage King is waiting for the princess, so she should go with him. But Lena had already answered him that she would not go. Albert decided that she didn't care what happened to the girl. The princess didn't understand why he was going so far. He was about to explain himself. The girl declared that her father would not forgive such a thing, but he reminded her that he had already said that everything was as the Mage King wanted. Lena did not believe him. Albert replied that it couldn't be helped. He would have to force her to go with him, just as he had planned from the beginning. So it was time to go back, and he got some more pleasantries. Guy thinks the king will be pleased. Lena's mom found out what was wrong. For a month each week, Lena had been missing one of her classes but coming to the others, so she figured it was no big deal. The teacher awkwardly confirmed it. Today, when she disappeared, she didn't think it was strange, so she didn't inform her. As she says, was she supposed to miss class tomorrow? The teacher just thought she would. The girl's mom understood everything. The teacher doesn't seem to know anything else, so she's fired. She repeated it to her again, and after bowing, the woman left. Camille wondered why she hires people like her. The woman replied that she didn't want to do it herself. She has no choice. She is better than everyone else. If she hired her, Camille thought she shouldn't summarily fire her. In another situation, the woman wouldn't have, but now there was a reason. She decided to do something. At this point, they know that Lena has been missing for about an hour. No, it's been 2 hours. Since then, no one can confirm whether Lena was inside the manor or outside. Camille asks if she was at lunch. Turns out she had lunch with her mom. So either she was kidnapped or she went somewhere on her own. Camille leans more toward the second option. The woman inquired as to the reason. Camille asked if she thought there was someone who could penetrate their barrier. Even if there was someone here, she would have noticed it herself. Camille asked if she had any ideas, and the woman in turn asked about her thoughts on this. Things seem to have come to this outcome again. Camille will look into it. The girl's mom admitted that she wanted to get on it too, but Camille has gotten used to solving her problems for her, and today was no exception. Leaving the office, the girl exhaled. She began to ponder where they should start looking for her when she suddenly met Soma. Camille thought that Soma had overheard their conversation, but the boy replied that he had heard nothing. But, simply put, he heard a little gossip while he was walking down the hall, about Lena disappearing from the mansion. The girl had confirmed it. He realized that she had talked to her mother about it. Camille recognized the fact that he's in the know makes it much easier. In that case, she goes straight to find Lena. She doesn't know how long she'll be gone, so the boy can do some self-study in her absence. Soma inquired if she had any idea where she might be. That wasn't really the case. The girl had decided to start her search from the evil forest. No, even a little farther. The boy decided to leave it up to her. That struck her as odd. She thought he would say something like he was going with her. Was he up to something? Soma replied that of course not. He had given his word that he would not follow her. Camille reminds him that he gave his word not to follow her. But he doesn't follow her, he shows her the way. The girl realized it was certainly good that they were in such a hurry, but was he sure it was the right way? Soma confirmed that, to tell the truth, he didn't think they were using her after all. It would be better if they didn't use it. The tag she left behind when they tried to kidnap her. It's not Lena's. Aina was most likely abducted with her. It's a girl he met in the woods, and she left a mark that only he can see. Simply put, he's following a mark that will lead to Lena. Camille wondered what they were even doing here. He replied that she was useful right now, so he asked her not to think about it. Soma can track them because of the tag. Moreover, the girl asked how he knew she was kidnapped, and guessed that Lena was kidnapped along with her. The boy replied that he found out about Lena by pure chance. After he realized that Aina had been kidnapped, he immediately returned to the mansion and learned that Lena was missing. Camille didn't understand why he didn't immediately go after her. Because of the distance between the marks, Soma was sure that the enemy had used teleportation magic. He only knows the direction, but doesn't know exactly where they took her. Soma prepared himself because in the worst case scenario it could take several days. Anyway, teleportation. Kidnappers can use high-level magic. Even if they have a magic item to help them do it, it doesn't change the fact that they will meet a problematic person. Camille understood the situation. It turns out that she should go after him now, right? Even so, she's a little shocked. Soma asked what she was talking about. The girl noticed that he seems calm in this situation. She doesn't say he needs to panic, but she thought he would look angry at the very least. The boy decided that it didn't matter what it looked like from the outside. It might seem like he's still inexperienced. Personally, Camille would like him to be more emotional. Guess we'll have to take that as a given. They won't see any more tags here. In any case, Soma thinks they won't attack them right away. Camille replied that since the beginning of their search, they have been following their tracks. Therefore, they should refrain from speaking carelessly. The boy agreed. It would be great if they knew the approximate time it would take to catch up with them. He wants to check out the places nearby. Camille thinks there's no problem with that. The girl realized that there was nothing she could help him with. She is really smitten with this kid. Camille decides that they need to find the town first, but she didn't think it would be difficult, so they set off onward. Along the way, the boys encountered some signposts. It looked more like a village than a town, and no one expected that. Soma began to think about what they should do. If the guys came there, they would immediately realize that they weren't from around here. The problem was whether they would agree to tell them the information. Camille decided that there was no point in thinking about it and suggested that they move on, to which he agreed. And they failed completely. Everything happened just as Soma thought it would. He thought he shouldn't rely too much on the teacher. An old lady approached him after noticing him talking to a few people, but something is still bothering him. Soma explained that some circumstances arose that brought him here, but he doesn't know the terrain. Since he needs to prepare food before going, he would like to know if there is something to be feared here. The old lady now understood why no one wanted to help him. The boy asked what she meant. It is an unpopular story, so he had never heard it. In this direction is an altar. It has not been used for 100 years. This place was once used as a shrine to invoke some god. As Soma realized, she means to say that place was once used to summon an evil deity, which turned out to be true. That was why everyone avoided talking about that place. They can't imagine what would happen if someone went there. Soma realized what the reason was. An evil god. It was the god of chaos who descended into this world several hundred years ago. Legend has it that the evil god wanted to destroy humanity but was defeated by the hero. And wizards are the people who worship the evil god. The boy asked how long it would take to go there. The old woman told him that now it seemed like it would take one day to get there from here. She would advise him not to go there. Even without an evil god, there are a lot of monsters roaming around nearby. Soma replied that even if he didn't want to go there, he had to. Anyway, he asked if there was anything else in that direction. The woman thinks there's nothing worth mentioning there. Soma thanked her for giving him so much valuable information. The old woman felt that she had not said anything worthwhile, but she was glad that she had been able to help him. The boy agreed that it would really help him. He inquired if she had any problems. He would do his best to repay her. The woman hesitated but asked to hear her story. It wasn't the most interesting story, but she would like someone to hear it. The boy replied that he would love to hear it. It's a story about a silly old man. It happened about a year ago. That day they met a little girl. Then they lived in a little place like this, and they knew at once that she was not from here. Of course, they guessed that she was in some kind of trouble and it would be better if they left her. But they just couldn't. In the end, they let her into their home. At first they wanted to tell her to leave. They decided to let her eat and rest and then ask her to leave. But even after resting, she looked very pale. The old lady assumed that the reason was not in her body but in her heart. The reason why they couldn't ask her to leave, because she might have died. but there was nothing they could do to help her. They knew that she was in some kind of trouble, but they didn't even think to ask about it. Soma guesses what it is about, but suddenly a smile appeared on her face, and she said she had made a friend. After that, gradually, the girl began to smile more. They did nothing for her, but that smile made them happy. Even though they had no children of their own, they began to treat her like a granddaughter. But at times she still looked puzzled. It wasn't as often as before, but sometimes she looked very sad and burdened. But recently she laughed. The boy asked if the old woman had not said that she had smiled before. The woman confirmed this, but it was not the true smile that comes from the heart. There was nothing they could do, but they realized that someone had saved this little girl. This fact made them very happy. They realized who she was, but they could not tell. Even in such a rural area there could be rumors, but they were really happy. They thought it was okay, so they decided to tell everything. The boy didn't understand what she meant. The woman replied that they told the man that the girl was fine. She didn't come back, so the old woman thought it was because of her, so she probably went home. It's a little sad that she left without saying anything. She came to the conclusion that there was nothing they could do since they were of different positions, but thanked him for listening to her story. But she asked to hear another request. The old lady asked me to tell this girl that they are sorry. Soma is forced to refuse. The woman realized that this was a perfectly normal reaction. After all, it is a selfish request. She is sorry. The boy complimented that he would definitely take Aina back, so she would tell her herself. She definitely has other topics to talk to her about, right? He thinks the same goes for Aina. Soma has set a goal to definitely return with her. After being kidnapped, Aina wakes up in a place she never expected to be. She realized that it was a prison cell, unlike anything else. By this time, Lena, who was in the same cell, was already awake. She said good morning. Aina decided that this was not the time for that. She was glad that Lena was fine. Lena replied, looking at what she considered fine. But yes, living will be. Though she had no idea why she was locked up here, and wondered if Aina knew anything about it. The princess remembered Albert explaining it was the will of the Demon King. She tried to convince herself that he was lying. It can't be his will. But then, does that mean Albert is acting on his own? Could it be that her father ordered her back, and he twisted that order beyond recognition? Lena noticed that she was in thought. Aina guesses why they were locked up here. The girl decided to tell briefly. Lena was shocked to learn that she was the daughter of the Demon King. It made sense to her now. Then, what was happening could still be explained somehow. But why was Aina locked in a cage, and Lena with her at the same time? Aina doesn't understand either. Are they trying to sacrifice her, or is she just a catch? It turns out someone had already overheard their conversation and offered to help. Albert was going to explain to them why they were locked up here, although they were about to guess. The two of them would be sacrificed. Aina knew her father would never allow such a thing. Sighing, he was upset that she had gotten it so wrong. The princess thought it was obvious. Albert replied that it was that they thought this worm was worthy of being called Demon King. They had never recognized him as king. At all times, there was only one demon worthy of that title. However, there are fools even at the top who call this fake Demon King. But Albert is sure that when their lord is reborn, they will realize how foolish they were. Aina realized that by saying Demon King, he was referring to the old overlord. And how many times can he be told that the title of king has always belongs, and will always belong to only one demon? But he's already dead. Aina didn't understand how they were going to revive him. Albert replied that that was how they were going to. The Demon King would be revived soon. Therefore, he had been busy preparing for the ritual lately. Aina couldn't believe it. Resurrection from the dead. She knew that it wouldn't work. Even if it was possible in theory, what were the real chances of him being revived? The princess realized what sacrifices were for. He explained that simple sacrifices were no good. They would not awaken him. However, they have two gifted children on their hands. He doesn't think he'll get away with it, but they will, after all, raise a true king. They'll drag that wretched travesty and his handmaidens to hell. Finally, the hour of rebellion and blood has struck, and at last they will take revenge on the ignorant men who called them demons and banished them from the lands. Aina was annoyed. How did he take off his straitjacket? The princess replied that she understood, and Albert really appreciated it. Unfortunately, they will not be able to take revenge with them, but they should not be sad. Their sacrifice will be the first step towards revenge, and Lena isn't interested in any of this. She shouldn't have been dragged into this. With those words, she was about to attack him, but it didn't work. Did she really think that such an attack would go unnoticed by him? Albert is one of the strongest generals after all. They both have a special class, yes, but he came here extremely prepared. He just fought off her own attack. But she'll die at this rate. But they've had enough of one victim. It won't interfere with the plan. Lena, unable to stay away, directed her attack at him. He was surprised, not expecting that the princess was already capable of using magic. Albert inquired how she was able to regain her ability. After all, he had worked so hard to seal her. Had she broken the seal without knowing it? He decided to tell her at least before he died. As he said, the princess couldn't use magic precisely because he had placed a seal on her body. A decent level for one of the generals, right? None of the demons ever noticed her. Lena didn't understand why he would put a seal on her. Albert thought it was obvious. He wanted the princess to fall into the abyss of despair. After all, he had chosen her as a sacrifice even then. But he didn't expect it to have such a powerful effect. The guy admitted that her escape gave him a lot of trouble. But, well, all's well that ends well. He thanked the princess for everything. The girl became furious, harboring a great hatred for Albert. Her level magic doesn't threaten him, but she makes too much noise, so she can lie down for now. He's never been interested in collecting beetles, but it could be quite fun. But instead of a beetle, it will be a princess. He thought she would start crying and moaning, but who knew she had so much courage in her? Apparently, these 2 years had not gone in vain. In that case, he could really have some fun. The girl could hardly bear the unbearable pain. Before this, Albert thought that he was dealing with a pathetic caged princess. But still, he should change his attitude. Did she know how unbelievable and how ridiculous and entertaining it was? For it all led to the same end. She was held like an animal to be strangled as soon as they got fed up with her. And Albert wasn't the only one who thought so. As she already knows, even her escape hasn't changed that. She doesn't know what he means, but don't worry, he'll enlighten her right away. She could have guessed it herself, just let her rack her brains for once. And here's a question for her. Who does she think he found out where she was hiding from? She has to listen carefully, that's the most important part. She's been ratted out, betrayed. But he won't tell her who and why, let her suffer more. It won't work, she's still holding on. He'll force it into her. What a pity, she won't make it to the ceremony at this rate. We still have to keep her alive. Albert's thought of something. If it's so bad, why don't she beg for mercy? If she surrenders, he'll heal her wounds. She's going to die anyway, but she doesn't want to suffer pain before her time. The princess was silent. The fact that she won't even beg bored him. Maybe she thinks someone will come to the rescue. She knows there's no such thing, doesn't she? Such convenient things don't happen in life. Lena agreed with this. Something so convenient she dare not hope for. Then Albert decided to try to squeeze a scream out of her. She would entertain him one last time by extending a cry of despair with her little voice. Someone bystander was already fed up with his antics. He suggested he yell himself if he so desired to hear the cries of pain. Soma became a light of hope through the haze of despair. Soma apologized. Lena's condition was a little worse, so he helped her first. He was a little late, but he came to save Lena as promised. Before leaving here, Soma offered to tend to her wounds. He asked if she could use healing magic herself. The princess replied that she could not. He realized that they had no choice. Lena asked not to worry about her. He needs to save Lena. The boy doesn't quite understand what she means, but she mustn't move. Otherwise he might miss. Soma explained that he used the sword technique of goodwill. It heals others by sharing its master's life force with them. As he thought, using it twice in a row would be quite difficult. But that's the little things. He asked for a better way to tell how she was feeling. The body should be fine by now. Lena couldn't believe that all the wounds and abrasions were gone. Soma concluded that everything had gone well. The girl was indignant because she had asked for Lena to be cured, not her. Her wound is very deep. Soma reminded her that as he said, he had already healed her. Then Lena calmed down. Personally, Soma doesn't think it's fine, and she inquired about the reason. Even though he promised that he would save her, he had to delay. The boy apologized for being so incompetent. The princess felt that he had nothing to apologize for. If Lena was in danger, then of course he would help her first. And anyway, he had saved Lena anyway, and she didn't need more than that. The girl suggested that she'd better get out of here as soon as possible. She doesn't want to be here anymore. Soma agreed with her, but it was impossible for now. He prepared himself for the worst. Soma noticed that nobody likes annoying guys. Albert doesn't really care who likes him or how much, and he won't take these two away from him. They are necessary sacrifices for their dear demon king. Lena was surprised that Albert wasn't hurt at all. Soma knew that his lunge had definitely hit him, but he had time to heal. Albert replied that it was because these were such meaningful sacrifices for their lord that he allowed himself to be so distracted. Who would have thought that he would show such a bad side? Soma knew that it was certainly clear from all of his past actions as well, but he really was a worthless type. If he had stayed lying down, Soma would have spared him out of pity. Hearing of the mercy, Albert laughed. He advised the lousy little thing not to burrow. That's why he doesn't like children. They're impertinent, they don't know their place. Doesn't Soma realize what he's getting into? It doesn't matter though, he's going to die anyway. Albert was shocked that the spell didn't work even though the boy was standing right in front of him. How could one of his most honed spells be dispelled so easily? Soma remembered that Albert had said something about knowing your place. But unfortunately for him, the boy knows it perfectly well. Could it be that Albert was the one who miscalculated his strength? He won't even be able to realize the difference in their strength. If that's the case, maybe Albert can help him feel it. Although it doesn't matter anymore, just like Soma said. The boy called him a bastard. One time he miraculously dodged his magic, and he already thinks something of himself. Soma thought that he was the one who thought of himself here. The boy prepared for battle. How long had Camille been wandering around and she hadn't met anyone else? Is it possible that they've all died out? 8 men in all. They looked suspicious, they were up to something. They won't bother anyone else. Where should she go now? Maybe check another place just in case. The girl was about to be attacked from behind, and she called the man a fool. With such a blatant lust for killing, he would never hit her. She dealt with him easily. He cursed the princess of black steel. Camille realized that now it was definitely over. She had been wrong to create a distraction after all. It didn't work. I guess she had one last place to check. Who knows, she might still be able to help in some way. At this time, Albert and Soma were fighting. Albert was shocked that he was doing such a thing with his magic. Does he have a special class too? Still, yes, how could such a child? Soma's abilities were truly astounding. Just as the boy thought, if you behave badly, your abilities will be the same. But Soma is not a villain. He will give him time to repent for his actions. Albert will die without regret. Albert decided to take revenge for his arrogant words. He declared that as one of the 4 generals of the Demon King, the patron saint of death Albert, he would make the boy die in deep despair, filled with regret. Camille feels a strong aura from Soma's side. It's a sense of danger. 10 years ago, she felt similar. It's the strongest demon clan, the Body Snatchers. It's just like then again, we have to hurry. The girl came to the place of their battle. It is now at its peak. The boy felt no fear as he fought the demon. Anna seemed to be in a dream. Albert was sure of getting him. He dare not taunt him. How does he even hold his own against him? He must resurrect the king. Albert won't miss next time. He'll wipe that piece of trash into dust. Soma will answer for his words. The boy called him too noisy. The opponent was too annoying for him. Soma contemplated starting a fight in earnest. Albert repeated that the boy could not defeat him and should give up. Soma replied that his goal was worthless. There is no meaning in his worthless life. Albert's patience had reached its limit. He directed his most powerful forces at him. Soma stood confidently, waiting for a collision. In an instant the boy swung his weapon. Albert couldn't believe it. How dare he hurt him? He kept saying that it was impossible, and he still couldn't calm down. Soma repeated again that he was too weak. The boy asked if he now regretted attacking them. It was too late for him to run away now. Of course, Albert could try to apologize or kill himself. The boy's response was to tell him not to try to make a fool of him. But Soma doesn't make a fool of him. Does he have a shred of conscience left in him? In fact, it's a pity to even kill Albert. Soma has enough problems without him. Albert thinks the boy is showing him mercy. If so, he will regret it. Camille tried to stop him. Albert decided to take the girl with him. There was no stopping his attack. Soma replied that it was too slow. Albert didn't realize how he noticed it. Only the dark arts were capable of doing this. The boy decided that he could consider him a devil if he wanted. He thought it was beautiful. Soma gave him a chance. His patience had run out. Now it's time for Albert to say goodbye to his miserable life. The boy had finally put him out of his misery. There will be nothing left of him. He may regret his folly in the other world. Soma added that he forgives him. Camille came in just in case, but it looked like it was over. Just as she thought, he'd sorted it all out. Soma replied that as she can see, it was just a small thing. Lena doesn't seem like he knows what he's talking about. She asked if he knew that Albert was a demon lord. The boy replied that if they knew he was weak, how would they look at his rank? Lena agreed with him. Camille had seen the Demon King defeated once before, but this, unlike her, Soma doesn't have any special skills, even though it's not such a serious case right now. With or without experience, with or without talent, still, in the end, she is the one who chooses the path to follow. If Camille had met Soma earlier, she would still be aiming for the 7 heavens. It doesn't matter, it's pointless to speculate about it now. At any rate, the boy has dealt with everything, she agrees. Now everything else he leaves to her. An exhausted Soma slumps to the floor. Sophia didn't know what would happen next. She was missing where the demons lived. They could take her with them. It could have turned into a terrible war. At worst, she would have to act first. The resurrection of the Demon King. Those who tried to do so became demons themselves. Demons are those who are truly worshipped and believed in. They are the real adversaries of men, longing for the collapse of the world. It doesn't matter whether the Demon King is alive or not. If he is alive, it is too terrible a coincidence. Demons lurk in all corners of the world, and when they start to act, everything will collapse into darkness. If the demons have begun to act, Camille may die. She doesn't care what anyone thinks of her, and that's the way it will always be. Though perhaps it should be. She wonders what Camille would do in her place. She ruined it, and Soma fixed it. This is what is called self-irony. The woman crumpled up the letter and burned it. She had kept him away from the world, but now he was grown and would travel. She will keep an eye on it, watching it sparkle. Soma thinks it's time for them to move out. Lena decided to make sure he was definitely feeling better. The boy had been resting for quite some time and he had already said goodbye to the teacher. Lena should wake up soon. Lena doesn't want him to travel. The girl replied that she was just worried about him. She immediately changed the topic to Lena, who he said should be fine by now. Soma hopes for that very much, though it didn't matter now. Lena followed them, lurking behind a tree. The boy thinks that Lena doesn't need to worry about her. Right now, he was wondering what she was going to say in her defense. The girl apologized. They had known each other for a year, but she had not told him anything. She would do her best to make amends. But what if Soma didn't make it in time? He hopes she realizes how dangerous it was. Lena replies that she understands, but he never asked where she was from, and if he had found out, he would have stopped communicating. The boy apologized. He should have found out more about her, but still, it was worth talking about. Then he asked to know where she had been living all this time. Lena told him that, to begin with, she couldn't stay on her side, because it was very dangerous, so she decided to travel. A year ago she found that village, and to get to the other side she had to go through it. She thought so. The girl tried to pass quietly, so she waited until nighttime so as not to disturb the villagers. She was tired and decided to get some rest. Lena wondered what she should do and an elderly couple noticed her and sheltered her for the night. In the morning she left a note and wanted to leave, but they noticed her and told her to come back anytime and she almost cried. That's why. Does he really want to hit the road? It had been a short time since he had fallen. Soma admitted that some parts of his body were a little sore, but it was alright, he could travel. He will be temporarily unable to move, but in time his strength will return, so he thinks it is okay to move out. The boy inquired about Lena's opinion. She starts traveling alone, and he starts traveling alone. And since it so happens that they met and they will head to the same place, although it is a coincidence, it is inevitable. The girl didn't know what he meant. It has nothing to do with. Soma means for them to travel together, or does she find it disgusting? At least he is sure that two people are better than one. Lena realized that he was right, but if she went with him, she would only be in the way and he would get in trouble. So he decided that they go together. Soma wants it that way, and she would never be a burden to him. He wasn't going to let her go, and the next time something happened, he would always be there to protect her. God is in heaven and the world is nothing. Lena didn't understand what he meant. Soma replied that they were thoughts out loud. He was just looking forward to a fun trip. One girl offered the other a drink, but Sheila declined. She still had work to do. The flames engulfed the village and the boy standing there. He didn't want it to happen. He just wanted to punish them a little, and with that, his vengeance would be fulfilled. Someone in a cape went a little overboard, but in any case, it's a negligible trifle. So, first things first, he thanked the boy for his help. He doesn't know when he will leave, but he will pray to his God, so the boy will be able to handle it easily when the time comes. Lena felt tired. His sixth sense told him that there was something wrong with the passage here. If he said so, it must be so Lena will go with him. An irritated Lena repeats to them again that they don't have time to take the detour. Soma had heard something like that, but he didn't recall agreeing with it. Lena agreed with him, but Lena told him to keep quiet. Hadn't she told them that if they didn't get to the next territory in today, things would be bad? Yes, she did, but Soma tells her that this path is kind of suspicious. He says that all the time, but they've never encountered anything like that. Lena decides that this is exactly why they haven't encountered anything, and now it's time for something to happen. He replied that only spineless individuals think that way. Lena asked Lena if it was okay that they didn't tell him. After all, the Newmonts are dukes. Soma's sister thought it was fine. There was no need to tell him yet. They would tell him if they had to. Lena headed towards Soma. The boy seems to know what they were talking about. Lena feels lonely when she sleeps alone, right? That's really a problem. The girl was indignant because she hadn't said anything like that at all. Soma decided that she meant like she didn't feel like that at all, not even a little bit. Lena replied uncertainly that of course not. He found the pause odd, but Lena explained that she had simply stammered. The boys continued on their way, still arguing about it. Radial Kingdom, Baron Avant's territories, Yester. This city is located in the northernmost part of the territory and borders on Numont territory, an infamous place with nothing but monsters and wastelands. Today, the branch of the Adventurers Guild was lucky again. Doris Hensel, the clerical staff of Yester's guild branch, remarked that it was strange, however, that this place was so cheerful. This caught Sheila's attention. The girl replied that she was just talking to herself. Although this place is full of life, sometimes she thinks about the meaningless things she once held in her hands. It would be nice to spend her free time eating and drinking like them, but she's not spoiled enough to do that at work. Besides, they say you can't. Understandably, Sheila thought she would just let it pass her ears. Doris would have if it hadn't been spelled out in her contract, but unfortunately they had stipulated it. Come to think of it, she did draw the short straw. The girl didn't understand how she could like anything when she was stuck here. Watching the guys wasn't so bad. I wonder if that's how she'll grow old. Doris asked not to worry about her, she was talking to herself. She was very happy when they took her to this place, but it doesn't seem to have worked out the way she expected. Visitors came to the guild branch office. Everyone was at a loss for words when they saw the huge monster. The girls immediately armed themselves. The man who brought the monster knew that the first impression was very important, so he thought it would be a good idea to make it spectacular. His companions decided that this was clearly not the right level. At the sight of the mad boar, Sheila and Doris didn't realize what was going on. Lena thinks she won't be able to brush her brother off this time. It's pretty easy to be surprised this way. Aina can bet Soma isn't too surprised. He replies that she is quite right. The people present in the guild branch didn't understand where the children came from or what was going on. The boy apologized for the inconvenience and offered to forget it. There was something he wanted to ask. Could he register here as an adventurer? All he got in response was silence. Soma thought that this place would be more welcoming after such an appearance from him. What went wrong? The girls saw that things had gone wrong from the beginning. There's no way to brush him off now either. Doris laughed. What can you say when his actions were on a whole other level that you can't keep up with? She welcomed them to the guild branch. She is Doris Hensel, an employee of this branch. She concluded that it was time to get to work. Doris thanked them for their kind greeting. Guild workers at their service. The girl asked to avoid all this officiousness. Stuff happened, and it ended with her in this place. Either way, it would end with her being a front person or never deciding to move forward. Anyway, she was just appointed to the seat today. Aina remarked that she was very fluent for someone who had just gotten a job here. Doris replied that adventurers who look down on themselves don't live long, and immediately added that she was joking. That's hard to believe, so she's easygoing. Doris offered to cut to the chase. They were asking about registration, weren't they? 3 kids, but unusually mature. More mature than some adults, even. Especially the boy, he looks exceptional among them. So to speak, whoever develops a quick mind acquires a high level of skill. And it looks like they defeated that crazy boar, a monster that can only be subdued by a group of high-level adventurers. Doris will check if they are fit adventurers. In general, it looks like they're trying to get money in adventures to cover the cost of traveling. This is a frequent reason. Soma thought he could sell the monster in pieces, but no one wanted to buy it from him. She explained that there was nothing to be done about it. Even if the local stores got the item, they had nowhere to sell it. Soma was beginning to think that they just weren't trusted. Doris replied that of course that was the reason too. After all, often if they need something, they get it themselves. That is, Lena realized that if an unaccepted person brought materials to their guild, they wouldn't buy them. The girl explained that after all, the organization exists for adventurers. In this profession, it's easier to get into trouble, and they don't need such complications. This is the harsh truth of society, and that's exactly why Doris needs to check them out. She asked Soma to take the test. The boy thought they should take it together. The girl asked if taking the test alone would be difficult for each of them. If he refuses, then the others refuse too, and if he fails, the others drop out too. It's easy and simple, isn't it? Soma realized that his fate was in his hands. It's a big responsibility. Aina noticed that he looked very carefree despite what he said. Lena is confident that he won't have any problems and supported him. Doris asked him to listen to an important thing. He would be competing with her and would receive a grade based on the competition. The boy realized that in other words, it was a training battle. But winning or losing would not be graded. Sheila asked if Doris would object. She wanted to fight him instead. Doris was surprised that she wanted to be an examiner. Soma's opponent was now a girl armed with a katana. Guild examinations have begun. Soma attacked first. As he expected, Sheila was indeed able to repel the blow. although this cloak completely covers her and hinders her movement a lot. But that's what it was sewn for, wasn't it? Next was the girl's attack. Soma held himself confidently. Lena saw that Sheila seemed to be stronger than her. After all, the world is huge. Aina couldn't distinguish anything anymore. The princess didn't understand how she could move so fast in this cloak. This guy has more abilities than Doris expected. But in spite of that, Sheila is also good. I think it's a katana. This is the first time she's seen her use it. But judging from her extensive skills, she specializes in this weapon. But why is she showing her hands? If she's been hiding them for a very long time, then she didn't need to go that far. Did something make her show her hands? No, she probably just wanted to do that. So be it. How much longer would they continue? Lena wondered. Shouldn't the exam end when she decided? Doris explained that that wasn't the point. It's enough to see the limits of his skills, and then it would be over. Lena thinks Soma has realized this and continues to fight with some purpose. But why is Sheila fighting? Doris herself doesn't know. There's no other way but to ask her. After all, this girl is not one of the stupid losers. She's sure she's interested in something. Lena realized that, after all, her opponent is Soma. It's no wonder she's interested in something since it's natural. Aina is more amazed by how her head works than the current situation. Well, this is the end, she wishes she could say. The fight is so intense that it even hurts. Doris decided that they wanted to end things with the next move. Both opponents prepared for the decisive move. Doris can't let them go any farther, so they will end here. She won't stop them if they want to continue, but the test is over. If they want to continue, she would ask them to put it off until next time. Sheila didn't see any need to do that. She had seen everything she wanted to. Doris would like to announce the results right now, but this isn't the place, so suggested she come back. She could bet they already knew the results. They had passed the test. From this day forward, the three of them can call themselves adventurers. However, they don't have a chance to prove it today. Soma didn't understand what she meant. He had heard something about guild cards. What he knows about guild cards makes things easier. Current personnel aren't allowed to issue cards, so right now they are considered adventurers conditionally. She will be their intermediary, but they need to go to another branch. First of all, Aina asked what would happen if they went to another branch without the right things. Doris replied that they would have no problem in the nearest cities, but beyond that, they might need acting skills to pass the next test. Lena doesn't think there is a way around it, but taking the test in every branch would be annoying. She asked Soma what they would do. He admitted that he didn't know himself and inquired about the nearest town where they would be issued the cards. She told him that if she went to Lamberg, there would be no problem. By wagon they would get there in about a week. 1 week by wagon means it's a long way, but going there is worth it even without maps. After all, the ruler lives there, and he rules from there. In the end, it's just a baron's domain. But they'll be angry if they find out about it. Besides, it's the most prosperous city in the region. Information and goods flow there. There's nothing wrong to go there before all business. Doris would like to know why they are traveling. She wants to say that it depends on their goals. Soma replies that he travels for magic. The girl was surprised that he was actually a mage. It didn't seem like much. She thought he was a swordsman. The boy replied that in a way, she wasn't wrong. After all, he has no ability for magic. Doris didn't understand why he would travel for magic then. Soma thought it was obvious, because he can't use magic. He is traveling to find a method that will allow him to use magic. He didn't understand what the girls were so surprised about. In a country where skills dictate the rules. Come to think of it, this guy would stop at nothing to find a way to use magic. Sheila is another matter. Doris asked if she was okay. Sheila thinks she can trust them. Sheila Lionheart, is seen to be an elf, and she has a request for them. There are ancient ruins beyond Lamberg. She wants them to guide her there. The adventurer couldn't believe it. This story must be a fairy tale, and this place must be just plain old ruins. The three joined him. The stranger in the dark cloak said that everything was indeed fine. But in that case, it looked like there would be trouble with the last place. If the literature is to be believed, an ordinary person wouldn't do such a thing. He gave him a certain amount of leeway. Should we go look? After all, no one has started moving yet. Now it's time for him to try. If it's bad out there, he'll reconsider his plans this time. In the end, he was right to let the adventurer live. He had overheard a little of his conversation. He wanted to make today's events a part of history, didn't he? That's a fine idea. He has a favor to ask of him. He wants the adventurer to tell everyone about what happened here today without leaving out any details. About him and the dragon. Then Doris hands Sheila over to Soma. The boy was sure that she could count on him, but would she mind? Lena agreed with him. Trusting a person you see for the first time is somehow too much. The girl replied that Sheila had asked for it herself. If it ends up with them deceiving her, then they don't know how to properly evaluate people. The wagon with the boys set off. Soma remembered that Sheila had said they needed to possess magic if they were headed there. She had heard about it from a madman in a black robe in a bar in Lumberg. He said that the source of the demon's power rested in dormancy. Then he spoke of ancient ruins nearby. Although he knew of the existence of the ruins, investigating them was beyond his ability. Therefore, he gave the information to adventurers who looked capable of doing it instead. As the boy realized, she would pay for this information by telling him what she would find if the trek was successful. It all seemed too suspicious. The girl realized that. But upon entering the place, she sensed something. The presence of someone annoyed. It's only intuition, but it will be difficult to excavate alone. Now Lena understands why she went with them. But maybe it would be better to look for adventurers in the capital. Soma thinks, after all, it would be much easier to find people with that level of skill there. But there was a high chance that the information about recruiting people would spread all over the capital. That's not even a consideration. It all looks suspicious no matter which way you look at it. If it all ends up being a trap, they'll just break through it. The boys have arrived at this location. Aina doubts that people don't know about such a big place. She means that it is not far from the city. Sheila knew that there was a hidden barrier and this place couldn't be discovered even with magic unless you knew about it. They came here right after arriving in Lumberg. Aina decided that they should have made some sort of preparation first. Soma thought that there was no need to worry. This time they would only look around. Gathering information was important too. Then they went out. The boys were immediately trapped and could not escape. Soma had prepared in case they were over the spiked pit. But this place was surprisingly ordinary. Sheila had also prepared for something like this, but was glad it ended up like this. Aina was surprised at how nonchalant they were about it. She asked if they were embarrassed to be surrounded by these strange creatures. They didn't think it was a problem. Sheila and Soma made quick work of them. Soma was a little anxious for a second, but it ended without a problem. The girl thinks those 3 monsters came after Soma as expected. Aina didn't expect that these 2 could kill ghosts. The guys didn't understand what the big deal was. Ghosts are incorporeal entities. She thought that in a normal situation, he wouldn't be able to defeat them without magic. Sheila replied that maybe it was because they had a special class. Lena doesn't think so. She has a special class too. But she hasn't noticed that she's hurt even one in any way. And Soma hasn't had a special class from the beginning. Sheila didn't know that. Lena was surprised he hadn't told her about it. Now that they're talking, the boy doesn't think he has one. He doesn't have any skills, let alone a special class. Sheila was shocked that he was showing this kind of swordsmanship without skills. She thought it was some kind of nonsense. An inscrutable man. Soma noticed her hesitation and asked if something was wrong. The girl replied that nothing had, and they continued on their way. The boys made their way through all the ruins, and here they are. It looks like this is the last room in the ruins. It seems to be an altar, but what is behind it? Suddenly, they encountered a black dragon. Lena didn't understand why there was a place to worship a black dragon. Soma touched it. He was slightly disappointed. Aina stated that he should have said what he wanted to do before going forward on his own. What would he do if something happened? The boy replied that he would have dealt with everything as usual. He realized that the place was empty. Lena asked Sheila if she had any idea what they should find. Turns out she didn't. All she knows is that it's something leading to the source of the demon's power. Soma realized he could grant your wish. Come to think of it, she thought it was a little strange. She had never spoken of her desire to anyone but Doris. Soma agreed that it was suspicious. After all, it was nothing new. The girl apologized as she should have questioned him more. Soma reassured her. It was easy to conclude here that the source would allow the use of magic. Sooner or later, they would have found out about it anyway. It turns out there was nothing here. He wondered what Aina had just been doing. The thing was empty, but something seemed to be wrong. The girl took the lid off it, which startled her. Soma tried to calm her down. I think this thing was made to be taken off. There was something that looked like a letter, probably ancient sacred writings. This was the first time Lena had ever seen such a thing. Aina knew that such writing was used centuries ago, but the writing doesn't seem to be that old. What would it mean? Sheila has no way of knowing. Lena believes in their time few people can read these writings. Soma has read that a dormant source of demon power rests here. Lena didn't expect him to be able to read what was written here. Then, that means that everything Sheila heard was true. But assuming that there was a secret compartment where something was hidden, then there was a chance that someone had already stolen what was lying here. Sheila realized that there was still hope, albeit faint. If something was here, then it must be somewhere else, which is logical. Either way, some tricks had been used here and there, but was there anything that prevented Sheila from entering the ruins alone? Was there even anything of that level here at the time she came here alone? And these hieroglyphics are the alphabet of his former world. The boys decided to go back. One of the men in the black robe was watching them. At last some potential was revealed. Should we give them the task of occupying the seal here? No, that might interfere with their plans. The current situation suited them. There's nothing more annoying than that. All for the sake of their lord and their ideals. Soma inquired as to what they were even celebrating. They replied that their successful exploration. Or was that not enough for him? Though they hadn't found what they were looking for, but they had raised quite an impressive amount of money. Since they couldn't think of anything else, Sheila decided to let it be. The girls drank milk and Soma water to their success. This time he can't say whether they were lucky or unlucky. The result was uncertain. Sheila replied that if you think of their original goal, they were unlucky. But from the adventurer's point of view, it was. Who could have known that they would find the treasure house on the way back? Not that they didn't have enough money for new endeavors, but now their affairs would go easier. From this monster, they had gotten more than they could have imagined. If they weren't too generous, they would have enough for almost a year. The stranger asked for a moment. The boys realized that he was saying this to them. He wants them to listen to his story. The man asked not to be cautious. This young lady should understand it well. He pointed to Sheila. Soma asked if she really knew him, to which the girl nodded in response. He was the one who told her about these ruins. The man appreciated her approval. In any case, since they know about the ruins, it means they were there. The result was on the table. The fruits of their conversation seemed to be fruit, but he realized they weren't too happy about it. Sheila told him that there was treasure there, but the important artifact was missing. The stranger decided that it had been lost. He was very sorry to hear that. It might not be much compensation, but wouldn't they want to know about the other old ruins? Surely another dormant power rests there. Soma recognized that the building was fascinating in its own way. Aina suggested just saying that it's a ruin. She means, is it even safe? Sheila thinks there shouldn't be any problems, so she hopes. Even if this tower is crumbling, Aina didn't see why it should be the repository of all things. Forget the walls, she's afraid that even the floor might break under their feet. Sheila believed that the interior should be completely different from the exterior. Sighing, Soma admitted that right now they could only hope that it was. The boys went inside. They're just fidgeting in the darkness, aren't they? After all, they are inside an old building. There should be lights here, but obviously they're not working right now. But they're not exploring anything in there. Soma remembered that there should be some lights nearby. Aina decided to do it all by herself, and a light appeared. The girl didn't understand why he was moaning and thought Soma had seen something. But it was just jealousy that she could use magic so easily. Aina feels the same way. There's nothing she can do to help him. Anyway, Soma thought that it was obvious even to beginners. The floor or walls wouldn't sell through so easily. And right now, Aina is forbidden from using attack magic. The girl knew that. Sheila fought the skeletons that appeared in their way. Lena also helped her, for which she was grateful. Lena didn't think it was necessary, but was glad to help. Soma assumed it was the 4th floor. Until now, there were only skeletons, but they often appear. There's something up ahead. He asked if they had finished their preparations. Everyone was ready, but Aina decided it was a little late to ask about it. Soma just wanted to make sure. He thought she would panic more. Aina had traveled up to this point, so she was used to it. Besides, he's here, so it doesn't matter, as Lena realized. With that, she wanted to say that she felt safe behind his back. Aina asked not to twist what she said, but, blushing, she admitted that there was something to it. Soma realized that it was a big responsibility. He had expected something like this. It looked like they had reached the top floor. As expected, there was a black dragon here. Aina wondered if there was anything else, but the dragon was the only one. There should be everything else, right? Soma said that indeed, everything was now visible. Sheila reported that if they were attacked in this place, they would be in a lot of trouble. The boys encountered a huge skeleton. Soma called the trick boring. Sheila complimented that his part can be encountered in places like this. It's a fine line between idiocy and genius. Aina asked to stop and the boy didn't understand why she was making noise. There's a huge dickishness and she's surprised, of course. Why are they so unfazed? They realized it was huge, but that's where it ends. Sheila cleaved it with a single blow. The resistance was too weak, but he regenerates immediately. No matter how many times she repeats it, nothing will change. It simply heals itself from any damage dealt. In situations like this, you should attack faster than it regenerates. But that's impossible, he's too big. Aina decided to attack him with magic. Soma watched his monotonous attacks, and it didn't seem like he was moving. he realized his goal. The skeleton wants to collapse the tower. Aina asked what the boy wanted to do, but it's obvious. He understands there is only one way to defeat it, but they don't have time for that now. Soma had destroyed it with his usual swordsman technique, and now he offered to quickly find what they came for. The woman read of 7 eyewitnesses to the dragon-like creature and the events in the kingdom of Veritas. She hopes she's just imagining things. The king pondered whether he should speak. The servant asked if something had happened to the lord, but Klaus just thought it was business as usual. They had been in this desperate situation for 3 years. He kept being told that they were up to something, but he thinks it's a bluff. But that is why they should be vigilant. He'd be happy to think it's all his exaggeration. The king decides that's enough for today. Soma discovered the same mechanism as in the previous ruins. Is this what they are looking for? The power that is connected to the demonic crown rests here. There doesn't seem to be anything else here. No one knows what it is. They can only go to the guild and gather information. It seems like they have no other choice. The man in the cloak discovered that they had taken it. The plan had worked properly. They are surprisingly competent. In this case, they might as well take the next step, or he expects too much from them. But with that, the goal becomes clearer. It's time for the final push. All for their lord, all for their ideals. The boys showed the discovered artifact to the other adventurers. They realized that it was all to no avail. Not that Soma was expecting anything different. Aina had heard that a village near the ruins had recently been destroyed, but that information only applied to the ruins they could visit. They showed the item to people and tried to find out anything about its use, but they found nothing useful. Therefore, they have no choice but to go to someone who knows. The stranger in the black robe realized that it looked like they were expecting him, and he had thought that he would be able to surprise them just a little bit. Aina didn't understand how he was here. Soma replied that Lena had warned him, but she didn't know much about her surroundings. Aina realized that one was inattentive. Lena and Sheila replied that they too were inattentive. Aina proved to him that she wasn't the only one here. Anyway, he believed that she alone lacked attentiveness and vigilance. Soma figured that the man had come to give them a clue, as he always did. He confirmed it. He was pleased with his cleverness, but the boy was hard to surprise. In other words, he wants to tell them how to use this thing, because that's what they need, isn't it? It seemed to Aina that the stranger was too kind. Smirking, he replied that he had already lived a long time, and wisdom comes with the years. He asked if they would listen to what he had to say, and they agreed. This sphere is meaningless in itself. In other words, it is the key, and the meaning of its existence lies in that. The boys wondered where they could use this key. It probably shouldn't be that difficult. If it was in the ruins, they realized what that might mean. He noticed that they were very savvy. He will go there with them. The man doesn't even know if what they are looking for is there. After saying that, he left. At least their next goal is clear. It seemed to Aina that Soma was too calm about it. Lena knew he wasn't wrong and turned to him. When asked what had happened, the girl replied that it was nothing. She just thought he hadn't participated much in the conversation. Aina noticed that he had been talking less and less as of late. Soma didn't see it as a big deal. It was just something he was thinking about. Now trekking to the ruins had become a routine. In the beginning, Aina felt anxious and all, but now she feels relieved because they finally got here. Lena complimented that they had been traveling and exploring a lot recently, so a lot had happened. This is Sheila's first time doing this so often. However, this is the first time they've encountered ruins like this. If anything, all the ruins up to this point were first time. The appearance is definitely different from the previous two. How come no one knows about this place even though there is a barrier? Sheila thinks because they are. Maybe if you don't know this place exists, you can't get to it. Lena is getting a little creepy. He definitely wouldn't come here of his own volition. This place is far away from the city and surrounded by a barrier. Soma suggested to keep it that way. They can't judge its size just by its appearance. After all, it is an old ruin. The interior may be very different from the exterior. We have to try to get in first. They will accomplish nothing if they only look. Something seemed strange to Soma. It's hard to put into words. Must be the atmosphere of this place. That and the fact that they hadn't seen any monsters yet was truly strange. Now that he mentioned it, indeed, they hadn't seen any. Lena inquired if it was normal at all. Sheila replied that it wasn't really. The thing might be that these are sealed ruins that you can't enter, but monsters usually live in such ruins. Aina decided that that was why they would be more vigilant. Soma confirmed it, but it seems that she was already used to it. So much so that she is surprised. It wasn't surprising since Aina had spent so much time around Soma. He didn't understand what this had to do with it and why she was so embarrassed. Lena thinks she's used to it too. Soma replied that it was expected of her, and the girl was happy that he praised her. Aina, no longer so joyful, watched her relatives. They were just talking about how it was okay to be vigilant. Sheila had expected it. Soma suddenly froze in place. They figured he had found something. The boy reasoned, and they had no way of knowing what he meant by that. Lena thinks they can go where he wants them to go. She will follow him no matter what. Aina doesn't much understand what's going on, but she'll follow him no matter what he decides. Sheila relies on him. Soma decides he will lead and tells everyone to be as prepared as possible. They meet a person and don't understand what she's doing here. Maybe she's looking for the same thing they are. Soma realized that it wasn't like that. Aina thought that no matter which way you look at it, it's a human. But if you look closely, something is wrong. The creature was similar to a human, but had wings. They reasoned that it was not like a harpy because they had wings instead of arms. Soma remarked that it looked like an angel. They had never heard of such before. He decided to just clarify. Hadn't any of them heard of angels? Aina hears about them for the first time. Do a lot of people know about them? Lena hasn't heard of them either. They are dangerous monsters. Sheila already said she hadn't heard. Soma, on the other hand, has no doubt that she has become an obstacle in their path. A confrontation with a mystical enemy in the ruins has begun. Soma engaged in battle with the creature. Aina could not believe that she was parrying Soma's attacks. She suggested that the two of them help him. Lena would say there was no need. Besides, her life was precious to her. Sheila's too. Even if they tried to kill her, they would only be in the way. Soma was surprised by her strength. An illusion like an angel. The level is good, but it's strange that no one knows anything about angels. Sheila knew that illusion types surpassed human understanding and imagination. Take dragons, for example. They take on the appearance of powerful beings as understood by humans. This is how illusions are translated into the world. Soma believed that people do not know about angels, so it should not exist. Even so, the knowledge of monsters from his previous life is mostly the same as the knowledge of this world. The angels not known before were a surprise. The question is, what are they? Is someone trying to create an angel-like being? It is most logical to assume that they are seeking to create a biological weapon. On the other hand, angels may have existed in this world in the distant past. Sheila asked if she was hard to defeat. Soma realized that he had to defeat her. But if things continued like this, she would greatly delay them. Aina assumed he had something in store. Soma replied that the same was true for the opponent if you forget about his superior defense. He doesn't have the strength to break through it. Sheila decided that there was nothing that could be done. They can't rely on him alone. She will help him. She thinks she can make a gap for him. Sheila's help has made fighting noticeably easier. The enemy didn't expect this turn. Soma dealt her a significant blow with his sword. His sword shattered. After saying that, Sheila doesn't want to die. Aina asked what was the matter. To protect them, he used the power that broke his wooden sword. This attack itself destroys the concept of destruction. The girl was trembling. They realized that she was still alive. Lena thought it was because he had decided to protect them. If he didn't defeat her, they made the decision to retreat. He wouldn't have time to protect them. Sheila asked Aina and Lena to do something. Aina isn't sure, but she'll try. You can't protect her all the time. Lena won't forgive herself if she doesn't do something. They couldn't believe that she could attack so often. Standing up to another attack would be very difficult. Sheila and her sword arrived just in time. Soma cut her down with a single blow. They finally defeated the mystical creature. Lena notices that with the right weapon, everything turns out to be much easier as expected. Aina finds it strange how quickly Sheila threw the sword, and how Soma intercepted it without much difficulty. Sheila asked if it was bad. If she didn't throw it at that speed, they would be too late. And it's not hard to intercept him if you know he's coming. Aina had forgotten a second ago that she was the only normal person here. Soma didn't realize what she was talking about. Aina's point is that everyone but her is crazy. Soma told Sheila that she saved him. She replied glumly that it was her move. He thought it just looked like that. He was just imitating her. It really is a fascinating technique. The girl thought it was a compliment. Aina interrupted them by saying that it was certainly wonderful that they had won. But what next? Would they come back? Lena thought about his sword. After all, he hadn't brought a spare. Soma asked not to worry. What he needs is lying over there. He just needs to pick it up. It doesn't seem to be cursed, so it's fine. The boys continued on their way. He never would have thought that after such an enemy, they would run into a dead end. Maybe a passage would open up something. Quite possibly, but in that case the thing would have to be somewhere else. Aina decided that they should go back, but Soma didn't think so. Soma is almost certain that their goal is beyond that wall. If so, there's no need to go back if something stands in your way. He decides to try to split the passage. It was easy to see that the entrance remained intact. Aina resented that all his reasoning was somehow twisted. But now they really didn't need to go back. As expected from Soma, Aina told the two of them not to overpraise him or he would become conceited. What's done is done, so he offered to go. Soma did not see anything unusual. As expected, a statue of a dragon, and no one else. But there is no altar anywhere here, and the statue looks different. Since it's placed here, there's only one thing left for them to do. Isn't it too tall? About 5 meters. Sheila decided to try to insert. They realized that something would definitely happen after that. But nothing happened. There was clapping of hands. The stranger exclaimed that it was balm for sore eyes. They didn't even have to look for the key to the door. He didn't think they would break through by force. He had to say it was all delightful. To think they had gotten here so easily. He congratulates them on that and expresses his gratitude to them. They have been a great help to him. Soma sees nothing for which they should be thanked. He asked not to be modest, they are great. Then instead of thanking them, the boy offered to answer him some question. The man gave him permission to ask as many questions as he wished. He doesn't mind if Soma would also accept his congratulations. After all, today is a great day. Then Soma will not be deterred. What is it, after all? The stranger recognized that he had a right to know since it would soon lose importance. Given the circumstances, they must be stunned. The statue in front of them is no ordinary statue. Long ago, this illusion brought great troubles to mankind and was sealed. The evil dragon Fafnir, and the orb they received as the core of his seal. In other words, they had just broken the seal with their own hands. Sheila was shocked to learn about the evil dragon. He is the one they elves sealed with great sacrifices. In panic, the girl began to breathe heavily, her hands trembling. She declared it was a lie. Grinning, he replied that it was not a lie. The evidence before her eyes. Soma knows nothing about this evil dragon, but can only guess from the name alone. He inquired what the stranger wanted to do after his resurrection. He replied that it was nothing much. They just want him to have a bit of a rampage. He just wants to bring chaos back into the world. Soma must say, this is a very common reason. But is it possible? If he's sealed, that means he was once defeated, right? It occurs to him that he will be sealed again if he gets violent. The man understands, but fortunately that's impossible. No need to worry. The dragon was sealed at one time in 12 different parts. But the seal needs something. The life of an elf and a regal, supreme elf. 1 life for 1 seal. Which means 12 lives were given for the seal. And their number had not increased to this day. If he remembers correctly, there were 6 high elves. That's why he won't be able to break the seal. Soma recognized that this was indeed a big problem. So they should just slaughter whoever is trying to break the seal before revival. That seemed to be the way things were going. But the man felt that there was no need to worry about it either, since it was the last seal. Soma asked what he would accomplish by bringing chaos to the world. It turned out they weren't going to accomplish anything by doing so. Chaos itself was their goal. After all, their god desires death and destruction. Aina had her doubts, but he really is among the heretics. The villain wouldn't want to be called that, but it's no doubt true. For now, he'll leave it as it is because the concept of heresy will change soon. Lena remarked that he was very self-confident and shouldn't think that a little dragon rampage would make things change so much. Of course, this is only the beginning. Their comrades would step forward at their word, but one of them happens to fail. 1 or 2 failures are no threat to their plan. There are many important things now, but Soma wanted to ask something last. The stranger wouldn't mind if he continued. But what was the question? The boy wondered why he was telling them all this. Laughing, he stated that it was obvious. They're all going to die here. He snapped his fingers. The boys realized that they remained immobilized. It happens to everyone who looks into the eyes of the dragon. Do they understand now? He didn't tell a word of a lie. Since the seal was broken so easily, he would reward them in a special way. Sheila declared that they didn't need a reward. He asked not to be embarrassed. All their work together had paid off. Only one of them would keep him company. They have done extremely hard work. That's why they need to choose one. He would be given life as a reward. The boys were not happy about this reward. Judging from the way events were unfolding, they would all die. Wouldn't it be a better reward if one of them stayed alive? Soma should have the principle of accepting whatever people give him. But he doesn't need it at all. Unfortunately, that is the end of it. It is all he can do. It's very sad. But the man decided that there was no need to be sad. Their plan has moved forward because of them. He promises that he will tell them about their deeds today. He inquired if they were sure they didn't want to pick anyone. They can't completely control the evil dragon. If they don't make up their minds, soon none of them will survive. Soma decided that there was no need to worry, for it was pointless. He made the dissection with a single blow. Did he seem to think he could do something to the dragon with that? The opponent admitted that he was great, but it was an evil dragon that made the world tremble in fear. He can't do anything to him. He expected more from the boy, but it seems that his eyes were closed with a veil. To think of it, Soma had turned out to be such a fool. Or maybe he had gone mad with fear. His actions are as useless as himself, but if he obeyed, he wouldn't mind taking him to them. The man didn't think the boy could cleave the dragon statue. The statue fell apart. He called it absurd. He could not believe that the little boy could slay an evil dragon. Soma didn't understand why he thought it was impossible. A dragon is just an illusion that has been given life. If enough damage is dealt to it, it will not be able to sustain life and will disappear. This is an undeniable truth. The man called it absurd again. This logic makes no sense. More importantly, the results from the 12 parts were just flushed down the crapper like that. It is truly painful, but it is a small price to pay for knowledge of this threat. He needs to rethink their plans. Things look terrible, but Soma asked not to worry. He doesn't need to do this anymore. Unfortunately, after their conversation, he can't let him live. Too bad, but the man is not stupid enough to show his true self in such a place. Soma forgot to say something. The truth is that he dissected it a long time ago. The villain was shocked that his body was disemboweled. Space was distorted and everything looked like he was here. The boy says he cut him open like this, but Soma can see him. It is normal for him to dissect what is in front of him. The man replied that it makes sense now. Truly, the only fool here was him. But his game is over here. That's not so bad. The rest is up to them. Aina knows this isn't a good time, but she's speechless as usual. As expected, Sheila wondered what Soma was going to do next. The boy realized that they were tricked one way or another, so he thought it would be best to gather some information before killing him. And it was a giant catch. After what they heard, they can't do anything. Aina doesn't think they can do anything without Soma. In other words, as long as Soma is with them, everything will be fine. It is in their best interest to help him. As expected, things won't be that simple with the dragon. Soma doubts that things will be as easy as they are with this guy. He hopes, one way or another, everything will be fine. So where do they go first? He didn't say anything about a certain place. Lena suggested that they find out about it first. That would be the safest option. Sheila decided that if they do that, they'll be too late. Aina agreed with Sheila. It takes time to go back and forth. They don't have enough of it to hesitate. Soma thought they didn't need to worry so much about this place. Lena figured he knew something. The boy explained that the heretics were going to do something right after, so it's logical to assume that their location is close. But they have no idea how they can find out about it. Soma felt that, for one thing, there was no need to do so. If they take his words from a few moments ago at face value, this location is related to where he was. Aina asked why he was holding the sword like that. She has a very bad feeling about it. Soma decided that she was just imagining it. Soma proceeded to carry out what he had planned without wasting a second. The dragon found that some of his power was gone. This seemed strange to him. Although it was only a portion, it was hard to believe that someone had destroyed it. Not that he was worried, perhaps something unforeseen had happened. He hadn't returned yet. The appointed time had already passed. He no longer had any reason to wait. The dragon decided that it was worth starting. He would start where he left off. We'll fight him out of sympathy. Kingdom of Radius, Duke Nemon's territory, Senfort. The king asked if this was true. The servant was sure it was. These are the results of investigations made in conjunction with the magicians. They have mobilized an entire army. Klaus inquired if there were any reports of reinforcements or ambushes. The servant confirmed that there were. There was no sign of reinforcements and there are no ambush sites there. He remarked that this was a silly question. There are no hidden plans here. Flying mages would be more plausible, but then they would be an easy target. There was nothing more to ponder. First of all, the king inquired if the officers were aware of it. The servant confirmed that since they could not foresee the enemy's intentions, they trusted his judgment. Klaus thought so. He decided to come forward. The servant worried whether everything would be all right. The king thought this was the best choice, and that's the reason he's here. And he is not so heartless as to let his soldiers die ignominiously. The servant concluded that this was the end of the report. The king is counting on him. Soma's father, the king of swords, went into battle. The soldiers exclaimed when they saw him. Klaus wanted to know the situation, and a servant handed him binoculars. They are encouraged. He observed no sign of reinforcements. The servant replied that at least there were no reinforcements that could oppose him. The king understood that, one way or another, it would be quicker to strike first than to ponder. The soldiers asked to leave at least a few for them as well. Klaus replied that it depended on the enemies. He set out to fight. This time he decided that he would strike past. He would hit someone anyway. Let them at least try to get out of the way. The swordsman struck a powerful blow. The soldiers realized that there seemed to be no casualties. Everything is fine as always, but they wouldn't get used to it just because they wanted to. Klaus decided to say something to them out of politeness, but he won't repeat it. They won't chase them if they are fleeing. If they want to surrender as prisoners, they will accept them. He promises them splendid care if they reveal their plans to them. One of the opponents stated that they do not want to be told what to choose. In this case, Klaus has nothing more to say. He steps aside a bit, but he doesn't promise he won't kill him, so let him try to survive. Something strange in the sky caught everyone's attention. Everyone was shocked by what they saw and couldn't believe it. Right above them was the very real dragon. Klaus realized that it was an evil dragon. It couldn't be. There was no way the 12 seals could be broken. He assumed the dragon was just similar, but no, that was even less possible. There was no need to change plans. The man was going to fight him. He dealt his opponent a serious blow. His sword broke, and now he realized why. The dragon reflects the damage. Klaus reported that he was using his breath and everyone should hide and cover without even trying to defend themselves against it. It's useless. They just have to concentrate on escaping. The mage is overjoyed to find that he is fine. Klaus didn't understand where the guys were coming from. Hadn't they run away? He replied that they were on the front lines. He saw the breathing and decided that coming here would be wise. Also, the mages protected their retreat, and half of them were purely lucky. Klaus asked for a report on the extent of the damage. He reported that they ran desperately until they got here. That's just his opinion, but he thinks almost all were annihilated. Klaus understood it was natural. First of all, he was offered medical attention. First and foremost, he needs a sword or something resembling one. It couldn't even be called a battle if he was unarmed. Beyond that, wouldn't he need a skilled mage? Sophia is confident in her defense and healing skills. The man didn't expect to meet her here. The woman came to report some bad news that had reached her ears. Was it the right decision after all, or was she a little late? Klaus replied that even if they had found out before they started, there was still little they could have done. Besides, she had used special transportation to get here. How reckless. Sophia thought it wasn't scary, although she had caused a bit of panic when she arrived here. The soldier wanted to report something and was given to understand that Klaus was still talking. He apologized profusely, but there was urgent business to bring to him. The king does not object. After all, this is not the time for conversation. Sophia was ready to help him. Then he leaves it to her. Klaus turned back to the soldier. The soldier reported the resumption of movement by the kingdom of Veritas. Klaus was surprised since there is a dragon here. Do they want to die? He immediately speculated that maybe that was why. The dragon won't even let them get their act together. He decided that Sophia was coming with him. First, he needs her to heal his leg. Now they need to gather all their strength. The strongest swordsman and mage go up against the legendary dragon. Soma stood over the corpse and realized that he had just killed it. Somehow they managed to teleport. This time he was conscious and it went quickly and without any problems. Sheila replied that they didn't usually do that anyway. Rather, no one would even think of such an idea. After all, she had already had the experience of teleporting into the ruins. Soma noticed that there was something wrong with Lena. She doesn't respond to Aina at all. Aina heard that some people get carsick from teleporting. Maybe that's what's wrong, and it's all the fault of one. Lena came to her senses. Aina thought she looked a little strange. If she was embarrassed to be honest in front of that jerk, then she shouldn't. The girl replied that she was really fine. She thinks she was just a bit seasick. Aina decided to make sure again, and she confirmed it again. Soma asked his sister to speak up right away and not to be embarrassed if there was anything wrong with her. She said she was really fine. It seems that they successfully teleported to their destination. But questions remain. First, where are they? The first thing to do is to try to go outside. We need to look around the area. Aina thinks they might be able to find some clues. Looks like they are somewhere deep in the mountains. Lena hopes this place is connected to the altar. It's entirely possible, although I wish it were the other way around. At this time, Klaus and Sophia were fighting an evil dragon. They saw that things were bad. The man had no idea that such an unequal battle would come out. Sophia tried not to underestimate him, but the effort was the end of it. He asked her to leave here and deliver the news to the capital. He doesn't know how long he can hold out here. Klaus asked for forgiveness. He had hurt her many times. If he had been around when Sophia immediately replied that if Klaus had been around, nothing would have changed. She wouldn't have let him do anything even if he tried. He apologized once more, but the woman replied that he was completely inept and she knew it perfectly well. Well, it was time for her to go. 2 magical teleportation tools. The effect on their family budget. They don't have as much range, but they're cheaper. Klaus didn't know that. Both of them didn't realize what was happening. Once teleportation has begun, Nothing can interrupt it. Isn't that right? Dragon suddenly said as if he couldn't believe it. Did they really think that he would just let them escape so easily? They were shocked that the dragon could talk. He's going to kill himself with it. Klaus reflects on the fact that the dragon is an illusion. He needs to maintain a balance of believability and unbelievability, and if he upset the balance, the world would not allow him to exist. And now he has spoken. By this action he greatly elevates his credibility, and this brings him closer to death. The dragon remarked that how careless of them, on the verge of death, to worry about someone who is trying to kill them. And besides, don't they think he didn't intend to kill them? He didn't go out of his way to hurt them because their actions seemed interesting to him, even though they didn't live up to his expectations in the end. Suddenly, one of the soldiers spoke. He realizes that the dragon is not going to kill them. Yes, that's right. These two he should definitely kill with his own hands. He suggested to keep them there. It would be embarrassing if they started hitting back. The dragon didn't like the fact that someone like him was giving him an order. He advised the man to know his place. Thereupon the creature told everyone to remember. He is Fafnir, the ancient dragon that bears the name of terror and despair. Klaus was surprised that he even introduced himself. Hadn't he fought at Veritas' side? The dragon explained that they had only made a pact. They had broken his seal, and in gratitude he had agreed not to attack them. They had brought him here and insulted his honor, and no pact would protect them from his wrath. They wondered if he really wanted to die. All the soldiers got what they deserved. Klaus saw that he was clearly overreacting. Sure, he's getting stronger from all these thoughts directed in his direction, but it's also bringing him closer to death. He is so close to it that he could disappear at any minute. The man asked why he was doing this. It is said that illusions are afraid of death. The dragon doesn't expect them to understand, but so be it, he will explain it to them. It is the will of his king, his former lord. Sophia realized that his lord was the Demon King. That was the name of the one they dared to overthrow. Sophia realized that she had said something unnecessary. Klaus replied that it didn't change anything. The dragon continued by saying that he was the lord of death and destruction. And if after these words the dragon is destined to disappear from the face of the earth, then that is his and the Lord's will. If Sophia told him that he was almost crying, he would probably get angry. But she couldn't be a good mother to her children. It wasn't her place to say such a thing. Klaus thought so too, but he couldn't be a good father to his children either. The woman admitted that there was so much she wanted to say to him. Then he suggested we talk on the other side. He would wait. The dragon decided to let the whole world disappear with him. All as his lord wanted. To begin with, one brave man offered to let the trashy reptile disappear. Soma thought so. He had it in his grasp. He seemed to have just disappeared into the distance. Or did he? Sophia asked who he was. The boy replied that he was just a swordsman who happened to be passing by. He apologized for meddling in their affairs, but they shouldn't pay any attention to him. Klaus didn't believe that he was here by chance. Soma realized that their reaction was justified, but there was nothing left for them to do but believe him. Then they decided to believe him so easily, which surprised him. This is all suspicious, of course, but they owe him their lives. It would be a shame to repay that by distrusting him. If they chose to trust him, it would be strange of Soma to refuse. The dragon must be dealt with first, and he will return to his journey. The boy dealt the dragon a serious blow. It seems that he jumped to a bit of a conclusion when he thought that this was the dragon's real body. In that case, there was no need to rush it. The protagonist realized that of course he was no match for that dragon. Perhaps he should be glad that he would soon be able to return to his journey. The dragon was surprised that not only was he able to strike him, but he was also able to repel his attack. Who was he? The boy had already said that he was just a swordsman who was passing by. How many times can I repeat? Soma will fight the dragon. He asked them to take on the remaining army, although it seems that they are too scared to launch an offensive. Sophia replies that they certainly are, but so are they. Klaus thinks they'd be better off leaving the dragon to him. They'll only get tangled up under his feet. He can provide an army for them and himself. Take over the dragon. Soma felt that it was worth putting an end to him before he made trouble. Although in this state, he was hardly capable of doing anything anymore. The dragon was angered by the words of an ordinary human. It doesn't sound very formidable considering his wounds. In Soma's eyes, he is an insect that has only recently grown wings. And no matter how much he screams, to him he will still be an insect. And like any insect, his destiny is to crawl miserably on the bare ground and die. They saw that the boy was very strong. Sophia confessed that she never thought he could make it this far. He fights the dragon alone. Klaus figured she didn't know, and that turned out to be true. It's not supposed to be known. She had heard about him slaying one of the Demon King's generals, but even then, she couldn't have imagined how powerful he was. This was the first time Klaus had heard of it. She replied that such a thing could not be spoken of publicly, and you can't write about it in the reports either. In fact, she came here today to talk about it. Klaus would like to ask about it in a quieter environment. Now they're sure of Soma's talent. That's probably enough. Sophia agreed with him, although she already believed in him. The man admitted that he had lost to her in something. She knew it was him right away, didn't she? He only guessed by her reaction. The woman's explanation was that she had spent more time with him. He hadn't spent 3 years with him. Klaus wanted to say something else, but suddenly changed his mind. About how Soma could defeat the dragon, Klaus was just thinking. Humans can't kill dragons, because to kill a dragon is to destroy a piece of the imagination of all mankind. At least that's what he thought. The dragon didn't understand how he avoided his attacks. It's impossible. Such a thing is not allowed to be. No matter what he says, it's actually quite possible. Soma suggests that he give up and die quickly. The dragon had no intention of surrendering. He would never admit defeat, and he would never admit the aura that emanated from him. Sophia admitted that she was beginning to think, maybe it's just a dream. That would explain a lot. Klaus agreed with her. In the background they heard someone else's conversation. She understood the feeling well. She had felt that way that time, too. The other girl realized she meant that time when Soma saved her. She was unconscious then, so she doesn't remember anything. Lena really regretted it. Hannah didn't understand why she was telling her that. Sheila was somehow jealous too and asked if she could have some too. The parents recognized their daughter. Lena turned to them. It's been a long time since they've seen each other. It had indeed been a long time since they had seen each other, but how did she end up here? Feeling awkward, Lena replied that she was just traveling and happened to bump into them. As far as Sophia could remember, she was supposed to stay home and receive treatment. The girl said that an ancient power had awakened in the depths of their homeland and then everything spun and twisted. The others suggested that she come up with something better. There's nothing to be done about it, but that's about it. Lena complimented that it was basically. The girl's father knew that she was actually following Soma, but she still wasn't supposed to be in the middle of the battlefield. Lena recognized that. Yes, Soma had told them to wait, but Sheila decided to help her and explained that they all realized that even if they came here, there was nothing they could do, and they made that choice anyway. Klaus accepted that they were already here. The man told them not to go far away from them. If anything happened to them, he wouldn't be able to look Soma in the eye. Of course, it would already be hard for him to look him in the eye, but he shouldn't make it worse. Lena asked with difficulty not to tell Soma about it. If that's what she wants, they agreed. They said they would protect them, but if the dragon decided to attack them, they could hardly do anything. They thought that they didn't have to worry about that because Soma wouldn't lose to him. The dragon will not attack them. That's why they are here. Klaus realized what this was all about. It seems that their faith is justified. Lena pointed this out to him. Her father replied that he had no right to say that, but he just thought he was proud of Soma. Soma was stripping the dragon of body parts. The creature couldn't believe that it could end like this. He fights for his master. The boy realized he had his reasons, but he doesn't know about them. What Soma does know is that there is no forgiveness for him. Everything else is unimportant. The dragon thought he could still fight, but Soma suggested that he not fight back. His blow became decisive. The dragon's huge head fell to the ground. Not even a dragon would stand in the boy's way. It's been almost a year since the black dragon attack. Sophia wanted to check something with Klaus. She asked if he was busy right now. The man replied that he was fine. He was just reading the reports. He remembered that there was only one matter under her responsibility in which she needed his opinion. It was about Soma, he thought. So far, Soma was not officially a member of the Newmont family, but now his deeds had become known to many. He had also been noticed by the people from Veritas, so third-party witnesses had come forward. They can't hope that the Radial Kingdom will just leave him alone. In the current situation, they have a duty to show the outside forces what has been, and will be the case with Soma's social situation. Klaus realized that they couldn't just say that he had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They could lie that he was his illegitimate child, conceived by mistake. In that case, Lena would retain her position as heiress. It is the easiest and, in fact, their only choice. They will say that they met with Soma's family to thank them for their help, and there they learned who he really is. Taking his age into account, it will look like Klaus cheated on Sophia, but they have no choice. They realize that by doing this he would besmirch his name, but it's not a big deal. And anyway, what is his tarnished honor compared to what Soma had to go through because of him? Everyone will realize it's a farce anyway. Sophia talked to Soma about it. He said he expected something like this. Klaus remarked that no one compares to Soma. Whatever scoundrels they are, they will do what they have to do. No matter what Soma and Lena think of them, they can't get off this path. If they were here, things might have been different. If those two had been here, Sophia is sure they would have complained non-stop, but never let their country get to this point. Klaus knows there's no point in talking about a future that will never come. The two that became the center of the opposition war in these lands. They stood at the head of those who dared to rise up and travel to fight the Demon King. But then, refusing to look at the formation of this country, they disappeared somewhere. They were in the background, but they decided to come forward. The only thing they can do now is try to do their best. Sophia replied that he was right. Whoever they have to leave behind because of this, they would never be able to take care of everyone. Klaus agreed with that, but maybe Soma could. She asked if he was done with the reports. Klaus had already looked back at what was worthy of attention. It's time to get to the next thing. At this rate, it won't be finished in a month or two. It's been a year since he was last here. Soma had other plans, but it didn't go so badly. Father decided that no one but him had come to see him off. The boy thought that if anyone came out to see him off, it would be his mother. Klaus replied that she still couldn't forgive herself for the past. Soma said that it was nothing to worry about. Father decided that in that sense his presence here seemed even more inappropriate. Anyway, she was busy and couldn't come. He had some free time and decided to spend it. The father inquired about the girls. He thought they would go with him. Soma explained that they had their own things to do, so they would not be able to go with him. They had told him about it as early as yesterday, and if father hadn't shown up, he wouldn't be here anymore. The man is glad they were able to avoid it. He apologized as he didn't know what to say, and he still doesn't. He knows only one way to convey his feelings. Klaus told him to get his sword. They don't have much time and there's no need to waste it. They will both make one attack at full strength. The boy drew his sword and the battle began. Soma once again showed his father his abilities. Klaus knew that his son would become a better swordsman than he was from the day he first picked up a sword. He was often told that he exalted his children too much. Soma thought that from the outside that is exactly what it looked like. Father sure if he heard the same thing from another father, he would have thought exactly the same. But today proved that he was right in his thinking. Soma will become the next Sword King. The title of the strongest swordsman that no one can match. He can match it. The boy recognized that this title was impossible to give up. It doesn't change anything for him, though. Will the title put him in any debt? His father replied that it was just a title, so nothing like that would happen. Soma will have to attend the award ceremony, though. It was the first time the boy had heard of it, but it sounded extremely tedious. The man agreed to it, although the ceremony will only be after he reaches adulthood. But officially, Klaus would still be the Sword King after all. Soma asked if there was any reason why he had to wait until he was of age. His father explained that it was because it was more convenient for them. That is, the reason is political. Nothing can be done about it. The boy decided that was the end of it. The father apologized for taking up his time. He asked if the son had forgotten anything. The boy thought no. Then the man asked him to be careful. They said goodbye. Lena was saddened that they had not been able to talk again today. Though, of course, there had been many opportunities, and she had only herself to blame for missing them. What can she do? She doesn't know what to say. The girl tried to reassure herself that he was no longer a child. For the umpteenth time, she realized that it doesn't matter what happened before. If she left him alone now, nothing bad would happen, right? No, if she leaves him alone, it will be bad. But he doesn't realize that, right? Although what does she say, as if she understands anything herself? Lena realized that someone had come. I guess that's it for today. That's right, she can't be torn in two after all. She had already decided what was more important to her, so there was nothing to be done. Aina walked in and asked what she was doing here. Lena also asked what she was doing here. Aina recalled that she asked first. She had found what she was missing, and now she wanted to ask where it was. Lena asked if she was sure and reported that Soma had already left. Aina wondered why she was sitting here if she knew he had left. She decided that Lena had been watching him, which was exactly what happened. Aina knew she had plenty of time after all, or did she already have everything she needed? Lena admitted that she hadn't realized what she was missing either, and right now she intended to find it. It's not too late. Aina suggested to hurry up. Soma had already left. They couldn't afford to waste time. The young maiden will not die and the country will endure. This world has long since drifted away from its appointed path. Perhaps it is for the best. Perhaps Lena can still fulfill her role. The commander explained that his army's morale has dropped to zero because of what happened. They are asking for an end to the war with his state. The king came to a rage. His country would not fall at the feet of these traitors. Of course, they hate them with all their souls too, but perhaps they should look the other way. He sees they have no choice left. They will take this path. The king thought they were useless bastards, and the most useless of them all are the tribe of demons, and he had laid out his treasury for them. Someone stated that he thought they were doing their job, weren't they? Yes, they lost the battle, but they created panic in their ranks. Is it their fault that they thought they had victory in their hands and failed to take down the enemy? The king could not understand who was saying this. Is he one of the demons? How dare he come here? The stranger replied that he was seeing him for the first time. It should be clear from his voice. I don't think he'll get it, though. He's heard the king is a fool. The king got even more angry and ordered him to show himself immediately. The mysterious visitor thought it was too much work. Besides, he didn't come to talk to him. The king asked why he was here then. Did he come to apologize? He didn't expect such a courtesy from a demon. The stranger repeated that it was all the king's fault. Indeed, he is a fool. The way he called him pissed the king off. He saw nothing wrong with it. He came here to get rid of witnesses. It wasn't his job at all. But the man who was assigned it had already played the game. He came here to kill him. The king visibly tensed. The stranger asked not to be offended. It was his own fault for deciding to contact the demons. If everything came to light, there would be too much trouble, even for them. Anyone in their shoes would have decided to get rid of the evidence, wouldn't they? Something of the king became hard to hear, though there was nothing for them to talk about. The assassin noticed that the color of their blood was the same. The castle would quickly fall into chaos, and then the country wouldn't be far from falling. Shouldn't we stop it? It doesn't make much sense for them to destroy the country. That's all. He wondered what he should do next. He was the one who was told to deal with whoever killed the dragon. Who could it be? A dragon must be impossible to kill. It can only kill itself. How could they expect it to be slain by someone? He felt hatred for the demon king. Or should he be called a former hero? There was no way he would have guessed that someone other than those two would have started putting sticks in their wheels. Maybe the same people are behind Albert's death. First, we need to find the suspects, though he thinks they'll show up soon enough. He's got enough on his plate. He doesn't need to go to the academy right now. But it can't be helped. It's time to get out of here. Lothern, capital of the Radial Kingdom. Royal Academy. Academy Principal Hildegard Lindworm joyfully announced the new school year. Examination for the admission of new teachers. There are a lot of applicants these days. It's going to be hard to vet everyone. It's probably because of the ongoing unrest in Verida's kingdom. That's why there's an influx of migrants from there. After the death of the king, there's an ongoing problem with the succession there. It is said that it will take at least 5 years to solve it. Some people are too creative. The principal wondered if they had mistaken the test for an essay. This is not surprising. Even the fact of participating in a test has a positive effect on a person's career. She wished people would stop using it. Something came as a surprise to her day. The principal suggested that the teacher take a look and she would figure it out for herself. It interested her. The questionnaire indicated a special level of swordsmanship. They realized that this was problematic. Another coworker thought it was awesome, and she didn't see a problem. Unless it was a problem for her, she could be fired. Hildegard suggested taking a closer look, especially paying attention to age. The woman couldn't believe that he hadn't even finished elementary school yet. The easiest option was to just ignore him, but the principal suggested that she try it after all. Have an interview and then decide. They did clear the pile. It was noticeable that the teachers were a head taller than usual. Some of them surprised the teacher. For example, these two famous adventurers. They'll see how things turn out in the end. Someone I know has decided to settle down, and it looks like he'll be here soon. Royal Academy's magic department teacher Karin Stamets couldn't believe it. Soma didn't realize what was wrong. He was told to show it to her and there would be no problem. It was written that it was recommended by Klaus and Sophia Neumont, Alexis Radius and Camille Hennefeld. Karin strained to get a recommendation from a duke, a duchess, and the king's best adventurer. She didn't think it should concern her in any way. She apologized that it took so long. It's all right. The teacher asked if he knew where to go. Soma was told that he should be assigned to a faculty. She replied that he should go to the testing ground and there they would tell him everything. The boy got ready to go. He had not yet been admitted, but she still welcomed him to the Royal Academy, a testing ground for practical skills. The teacher informed the girl that the target that was burning was right in front of her. Yes, she had gotten hurt in the last test, but he didn't see it as a big deal. He reminded her that they had already started testing. Of course, she could take her time if she so desired. Maybe she didn't understand the assignment. The girl confusedly replied that she understood. She knew that she had to pick the right spell and show all that she could do, and also remembered that she hadn't been told what to do with the target. After all, she used a magical freeze on her. The teacher approved of this spell and informed her that she had passed the test. But first she could wait until the target stopped burning. She wouldn't be the last one for today after all. Now she would have to create a new one. She can think of it as another test. That way he could learn even more about her level of magic. Now the teacher told her to go there. The instructor waiting there should tell her where to go next. Right after the girl, Soma was next in line. He came for the test. The girl turned her attention to him. Black hair. Only talented people have black hair. Black is the color of geniuses. The boy asked what he should do. The teacher said to use on target what he could surprise him with. Then Soma decided to use a sword. The girl knew it was very rare. She wondered what kind of magic he was using. The boy used a magic blade. The power of his strike made it hard to stand still. The girl was surprised to see such a picture in front of her. Previously, it was believed that the range could withstand even the full force of the instructor. Soma decided that he had overdone it a bit. He had been taken in so easily. He thought he would fail, and he has a lot of free time now. In the afternoon, the academy entrance ceremony. In principle, he can go outside. He'll go out early, but he won't be late. Maybe walk around, see the city. Just as he'd thought, there was absolutely nothing to do in the city in the early morning. It's still better than sitting around doing nothing. Although he hoped he would find something interesting. At this point, that very girl had to join the battle. I wondered if she'd been rushed. Well, no, he was the one who attacked her first. She would want to know why they attacked her. The girl realized they weren't going to talk. Then she continued to defend herself. One of them ordered her to listen to his voice and not to attack. The girl tried not to give in. She decided that he was going to kill his comrade as well. Soma noticed that it was too noisy. He wasn't sure if he should intervene. But it would be a shame if someone got hurt. Royal Guard headquarters. The boy was surprised by the unexpected hospitality. He hoped he would not be thought to be their accomplice. He didn't try to arouse suspicion when they were found. Although Newmont's last name is on everyone's lips, but he didn't seem to give his last name. Soma wondered if it was the girl. The king decided that he should thank the boy first. Soma had a question. What is the king forgetting here? King Alexis thought it was natural to come to thank his daughter's savior. Soma realized that this was obvious. The ruler noticed that the boy did resemble his parents. Even when he came, Soma did not bow. The boy explained that he had no time for chatter. He inquired if they were able to figure out who it was. The king admitted that they had not. They had left no clues and it was as if they had vanished. He asked Soma to keep an eye on her. After all, he can't even look into the academy. They don't know each other well and don't socialize, so Soma can't promise anything. As long as she is within his sight, then he will keep an eye on her. The king has stated that this is enough and he relies on him. He called the boy the future king of swordsmen. He did not seem to have called him that at their last meeting. Soma saw that he was not so simple, hence his closeness with his father. The boy began to wonder what he should do with the princess now. 6 o'clock in the morning. Newmont family morning. And Soma, as always, was Soma. Lena and Lena wished each other a good morning. They noticed that Soma was still full of energy today. His father, who usually rarely goes out, also noticed this. Just this morning he has a lot of free time. He realized that the boy was exercising. When Lena was little, she was told a fairy tale about a monster that could swallow the whole forest at once. Now she thought that maybe it wasn't really a fairy tale. Lena agreed that it was a very real story. It had been several months since they had stayed at the Newmont family villa for some reason. She realized once again how powerful Soma was. He cut the ground and a hot spring appeared, hit the sky and dispersed the clouds. He is insanely strong. Does he even need magic? Whether he will be able to use magic, she can't say for sure now. But now is the best time for him to learn. Soma wonders if he can clear the sky so the stars can be seen. It's a shame the weather is so overcast, and they're having a party to celebrate the completion of the renovations. Come to think of it, he only has an ordinary sword. Aina replied that she was capable of showing him the starry sky, but without crazy swordsmanship techniques. She was easily capable of such a thing. He decided that it was somehow unfair. He doesn't want to hear it from her. The princess is sorry she makes him late. It's not her fault, she's the victim. Besides, he's been hanging around town doing nothing anyway. Soma was looking forward to his first day at the academy, which was why he woke up so early. The girl was surprised that it was true. He thought she was too. The boy thought that she had nothing to apologize for. He relaxed perfectly and took his mind off unnecessary thoughts. The princess realized that he cared about something. Soma is looking forward to the start of classes, but today is only the admission ceremony, so it's better to calm down for now. He didn't think he would pass the exam. The princess thought that he had performed so well, but Soma was afraid that he had overdone it. After all, one must not only wield power, but also be able to control it. The girl would also like to one day say something so wise. The boy thinks she will be taught it. The princess knew that he had already met her father. Soma realized that she wanted to hide that she was a princess. He doubted she would be able to do so when her studies began. She has admitted this to herself. The girl doesn't want people to treat her special just because she is from royalty, so she doesn't want people to treat her like a princess. He figured then she could talk to him in peace. He doesn't care about her royal lineage. If he cared, he wouldn't address her as you, right? Though if she thinks it's rude, she can always tell him. The girl was embarrassed after saying that and replied that it was fine. She assumed that he was also going to enter the magic faculty. Her name is Sylvia, Royal Academy. The admissions ceremony has begun. It was said to be held in one of the halls. If he remembered correctly, he was told to go to the training ground. Surprisingly, it turned out to be huge. They weren't wrong, were they? This is what the Royal Academy is like. It's more like an arena than a training ground. There must be no mistake. Those people look like students. Soma thinks they don't know what's about to happen either, so they look a little confused. Sylvia replied that there were a lot of students accepted this year. However, her words do not explain everything that is happening. Soma realized that more students would attract suspicious individuals. She assumed he was talking about those three. The girl agreed that they looked suspicious, but they had already entered the academy. Camille entered the arena. First, she welcomed the students to the Royal Academy. Right now, they are probably confused, but they will explain everything. A normal entrance ceremony would be too boring. But after all, they have a Royal Academy here, a place where the geniuses of this world strive for unattainable heights. It wasn't exactly an ordinary place, so she wanted to prove it to them. They must prove to her that they are truly worthy. The students recognized the girl by her appearance and demeanor. The best adventurer, the heroine of the kingdom, the silver battle princess. She's uncomfortable being called that. She doesn't give extra points for flattery, so she advises them to stop if they want her to like them. They realize that this is indeed Camilla Hennefeld, the heroine of the kingdom, the most outstanding adventurer of the Radial Kingdom. One of the strongest adventurers, Beatrice Daemont, Knight of the Flower, Iori Kanzaki, a hero from another world. Also the two new mounts who are called the King and Queen of Heaven. She has saved many people. It is said that with no special skill, she is able to defeat anyone with such a skill. Parents tell their children about her exploits, and they fight her. Camille could see they knew everything, didn't even have to introduce themselves. They seem to be getting impatient already, but she wants to clarify something. First, they won't fight her one-on-one. This is where they'll show what they can do together. Second, she thinks most of them know what it is. It's a copy of a collar that blocks the use of skills. It is less effective than the original, so all her skills have only been weakened. That way she has enough strength to easily defeat them, and they do intend to expel most of them. She asked them not to hold a grudge against her, but there is no need to give up. Even when there seems to be no chance, they must find the strength and at least have fun. Camille knew it was good advice. Even though this is the heroine of the kingdom, her skills are weakened and they have a numerical advantage. They have a chance. The girl was the first to show her skills. The students began to doubt that her skills were weakened. Camille knew that they were now probably wondering, gently, whether the collar was even working. They could be sure she could only use low-level skills. But is low-level skills an indicator of strength? Wouldn't there be a difference in strength if the same skill was used by a weak and a strong person? Skills are just a way to attack. She will teach them how to use them properly. Camille noticed that many lacked courage and just ran away, and the little guy stopped her strike. He stated that his swordsmanship skill was at a medium level, and because of the collar, her skills were at a low level, meaning he would be able to fend off the attack. The girl said that they should work together, otherwise they won't be able to touch her. She doesn't think such an attack will be enough. The boy questioned whether it was low. He was sure that she could not repel an attack she could not see. But the following he did not expect. Camille admitted that she really wouldn't be able to repel this attack, but that's why it's possible to just break the distance, right? He didn't think it was possible. The girl realized that it was fine to be confident in her strength. At this pace, she might not be able to finish. She would have to be a little more serious. Especially, she had a main course waiting for her. She suggested we start. Soma and Sylvia watched the events in the arena. They noticed the guys standing around waiting for their turn. Apparently, they want to show off their skills alone. Sylvia feels that at this rate, because of so many duels, she will just get tired. Soma thinks they'll see that soon. Camille even has an axe broken, but despite that, she picked up the sword lying on the ground and continued fighting. Camille only has advanced level skills, but there is something that allows her to be on the same level as heroes with special skills. A versatile martial arts style. Camille is capable of using any weapon and their corresponding skills. Hence, a battlefield with various weapons scattered around is the best place for her to prove herself. Sylvia thought, everyone knows about this. He's just stumped and trivialized without thinking. Camille didn't think her axe would be broken, and they aren't as bad as she thought. Then she'll get a little more serious. Soma volunteered to be next. She allowed it, but something he was late. He remembered that she hadn't agreed to a rematch then. But it was different now. She is the teacher and he is the student. Camille has an obligation to respond to her student's request. The boy thought it would be a good idea to get revenge since she was now a teacher. The girl was sure she would win today too. But before she did, she would first get rid of that annoying thing. She snapped the collar on herself. Camille asked if there were any objections, but Soma would object if she didn't take it off. The girl thought so. It was time to fight. The fight was aided by Camille's sword and traditional axe. She delivered a powerful blow, but the boy stood still. She thought she would just smash him to the ground, and he didn't change at all. Although she says so, Soma asked, isn't she surprised? The girl didn't see the point in saying obvious things. The boy swept. The teacher tosses the weapon into the air, and while it is in the air, attacks the other. Even he realizes how amazing this is. Camille called it ordinary juggling. His abilities are much more amazing. But they didn't have much time left. He asked the teacher to solve faster. How much can you break other people's weapons? She called him a bad warrior since he threw his weapon. The boy couldn't argue with that. The fight continued, and Camille attacked first. The girl took everything she could get her hands on, but Soma responded with a huge cut. Camille thought it would work this time. Soma was scared at first. She used the handle of a broken axe as a stick and hit him with a bow. Then the girl decided to fight unarmed. She struck a powerful blow with her fist, but this time she seemed to lose. Sylvia knew Soma was strong, but to be this strong, she figured he had a special skill. No, that's impossible. There are only 2 possessors in the world. It was unlikely that there could be more. She convinced herself that it was simply impossible. She wondered what would happen next. Should another instructor come? Suddenly, a mysterious man in a cloak attacked Soma. This mysterious person turned out to be Sheila. Soma asked if she was sure it was worth revealing her identity. Sheila thought it was rude to walk around the academy in a cloak, right? He admitted that she was right here. He was even surprised that she hadn't been reprimanded earlier. As it turned out, she had special permission. But she had better ask him to tell her how he was able to recognize her and fend her off. He replied that it was simple. After all, it's the same cloak she used before, and the attack was all too obvious. Sheila thought an ordinary person wouldn't have guessed. Soma thought that if she disguised herself better, a surprise attack might well work. At least not like Lena. The girl didn't think he would be able to expose her. Soma explained that she was on the contrary overextended and it was easier to reveal her. Aina saw that he wasn't changing at all. They had tried so hard to hide, and it had all turned out to be for nothing. They found out about the admission ceremony in advance so they could prepare for that moment. Soma was surprised that they had gone so far to defeat him. Had he wronged them in some way? This was a rare and wonderful opportunity for them. For once, they want to defeat him. Aina began to recite the spell. Soma realized that she was serious about attacking him. He figured that if he couldn't repel it, he would die. It was his mother's spell, he made sure of it. The girls knew that he wouldn't die from this kind of magic. Soma is not that weak. It seemed to him that they were trying to hurt him like that. Aina finished casting the spell and it came into effect. Lena, of course, is sure Soma will survive, but she thinks she overdid it. Sheila agreed, so others might get hurt. Aina did say that she could choose the target for this spell, didn't she? She wanted people to believe in her just a little bit. Lena decided that if the flames didn't go out, her brother was fine, nothing to worry about. Aina didn't realize whose side she was on, or how he wasn't dead there yet. She realized everything. Soma really is safe and sound. He recognized that Aina couldn't be called ordinary now either, with that kind of magic. Lena inquired how he had repelled that spell. Soma replied that he just kept swinging his sword, fanning the flames. Sooner or later mana would run out, so one should just keep swinging. Sheila called him crazy. Soma asked if they were continuing or not. The girls were not going to give up. Soma handled the attacks with a mere cut. Watching them, Sylvia wondered if she could one day become as strong. Soma decided that was the end of it. The doors swung open and Principal Hildegard asked if they had enjoyed the dedication ceremony for the new students and congratulated everyone on their enrollment. This was to be followed immediately by a tour of the faculties, but they didn't seem to have the energy for that. She told everyone to go back to their rooms and rest until tomorrow. She would later announce the place and time of the meeting. Soma and the principal met glances. A few days after that, classes and academic life began. A wide range of basic education courses, martial arts classes, and Soma's favorite class, magic class. This is the picture that emerged over the course of a few days. But this is only his first year. No wonder he's not learning anything new yet. Soma has taken to reading books. As expected of a royal academy, the books in the library are uncountable. And no matter what course you're in, you're allowed to read any book in the library. Sylvia was watching him intently. Although she is from a royal family, she is unlikely to inherit the throne. Nevertheless, she is proud to have grown up in a royal family, and she wants to be useful to the kingdom, so she decides to enroll in the Royal Academy. The kingdom is too far behind in magical research, and she has a talent for magic. She must learn how to use it. And by entering the academy, Sylvia learned that there are many amazing people in the world. And among them, there is Soma. He is amazing. She really admires him. He has no trouble answering any question. Even in fencing class, he was able to beat the teacher. And it seems like he doesn't even bother. At least it seems that way to her. Just when she thought he had finally decided to do something other than studying, he sat down to read a book. But she can actually answer the board, too. She's not stupid at all. Soma began to think that Sylvia was displeased about something. It's been about 2 weeks since classes started, and he's not sure if he'll be able to keep up with his studies. At this point, it is unlikely that he will be able to accomplish his goals. He reads all the books he can get his hands on because he doesn't know what will be useful to him. Labyrinth. So far, this book seems to be the most useful. The mazes. Before you know it, the monsters killed in the maze are back again. In addition, treasure and various unknown artifacts can be found in the maze. One of the reasons why he decided to enter the academy was because of the existence of the labyrinth here. The academy was built on this labyrinth, and there is also a lesson dedicated to the labyrinth. However, one is only allowed to visit it at one's discretion after completing secondary education. I wonder if there is a way to get in earlier. Soma wants to find out. Soma was walking through the library and met Sheila. He realized that they were exploring the library looking for magic spells and found out that they were looking for a grimoire. She and the teacher decided to approach the study from that angle. A grimoire is a type of spell book for learning new magic. This is how you can learn a certain magic by reading it in a grimoire. It is very rare and expensive because it can only be obtained from the labyrinth and can only be used twice. If anything can be found in the library, it is only used grimoires. Neither Soma nor Sheila are trained in magic. Apparently Sheila wants to find something to help her understand magic. They were looking for some very basic grimoire. Sheila has enough time to take her time and try everything out. She has never used a grimoire before. Grimoires are rare things, you can't read them often, unless it's only in a place like this. She would start reading from the contents. Soma knew she was unlikely to be able to read anything at all there, so he had been told. She really couldn't read. It's all written there in ancient sacred symbols. Few people could read it. Sheila suggested that he read it. Karin was shocked that Soma could read ancient sacred symbols. He read some man's notes, which looked more like entries from a personal diary. The covers of all grimoires are of the same unique type. It is impossible to forge a grimoire. It turns out that this is really him. Soma took a quick look at the rest of the pages. It seems that there are only similar entries here. It's the same in the other grimoires. The teacher became convinced that he really could read it all. Soma found it strange how much she was surprised by this. It was such a rarity. She explained that these symbols are freakishly rare, and they know absolutely nothing about them except that these symbols were given to them by God. There is a theory that it is writing from another world. Soma was affected by this. Karin thought he was surprised. Sometimes people from another world come to their world. Some of the technology they brought with them still exists. You mean people like the Iori Kanzaki that everyone knows? Soma noticed that the teacher was knowledgeable about such things. Then she must know a lot about the labyrinth. She replied that to some extent one could say that. Soma saw that then she knew how he could get into the labyrinth right now. By hiding it from unwanted eyes. Karin realized that he thought she would teach him that, even though she was a teacher. The teacher recognized that it was certainly possible to get in. But after going through the necessary formalities, Soma decided that it was still possible to get in. This was the first time Sheila had heard of it. Karin replied that it was not surprising, because there were unspoken rules that were not spoken of within the walls of the academy. She was going to give an example, but someone picked up on her thought, saying that students in elementary education weren't allowed to go to the labyrinth. But there was one exception. One could ask the instructor to take a special exam. They were joined by the principal himself. In the morning, Soma had never been here before and wondered what it was. Was this what he had envisioned the maze to be? The director thought the training ground must have surprised him a lot more. He admitted that she was right, it was a completely different atmosphere here. And did the headmaster really have so much free time that she personally decided to conduct the exam? Isekai'd decided that he could have phrased that thought in a softer way. And is she still the strongest in this academy, or had he forgotten? Soma replied that if it were any other teacher, he might not have gotten here at all. The principal was glad that he realized that and wanted even more thanks. Soma asked not to get carried away. He found out about the barrier. She explained that as a precaution, they had put up the barrier so that there would be no problems even if a monster came out of the maze. Although that had never happened, the boy decided that he should hurry up and get started. He assumed the content of the exam was a secret. But before they start, Isekai'd will say something else, he might like it. She would immediately send him to the 10th level. The 10th level is the intermediate level to which those who have completed their elementary education usually rise, and it's where they take the qualification test conducted for middle school. Soma wondered how long it would take. She thinks no more than 2 hours. The exam has started. Soma met the goblins here. He wondered if he should think about being attacked from behind. The director asked me not to worry about it. At the very least, she would handle it. Even if she was attacked by a large group of monsters, he shouldn't worry and turn back. The boy saw that he was doing quite well. At this rate, he would be able to go far. Nothing too complicated yet. Something he had always wondered about. Why does she talk so strangely? Isekai'd declared that he was the last person she wanted to hear it from. He didn't mean to offend her, it's strange. Why does she act and look like a little girl? She's an adult, the principal asked when he realized this. Soma replied that the moment he saw her, she is that dragon after all. She was afraid he would kill her. That's not why he came here, is it? The boy reassured her that even if he had been ordered to kill her, he wouldn't have done it. He just hates killing. She was upset because she wanted to surprise him so much. Soma realized why she had personally decided to take the exam today. She was already sick of him with it. The boy remembered that she never answered his previous question. Why the little girl in particular? He didn't know that a dragon even had a gender. She explained that her body was small because she hadn't even lived 50 years yet. She won't take a form with a tall stature when she gets older either. The reason is that in her original form, she is quite large. Even by dragon standards, she was big. That's why in this form, she chose a small body. Isekai'd is sure he's surprised, but it's all part of her plan to seduce him. In other words, she's a sweet Lola. Soma decided to ignore this idiocy. He asked what it was about seducing and why she needed to do it. She explained that she was going to make a baby. He did not remember taking any interest in her in that regard. Isekai'd replied that he had killed her. After all, that was enough. It was therefore natural that she wanted a child by him. That is why she took the form of a girl. She thought long and hard about which female form to take, or else he wouldn't like her yet. Soma, of course, is very happy for her, but she's saying some silly things right now. This whole plan sounds like she revived it here on purpose. She confirmed it. He'd forgotten what she'd said then. Come to think of it, they could have been reborn in the same world with her by accident. She could very well have done that. She replied that she was a god after all. Soma inquired if non-humans could have children at all. According to her, it was true that she was not of the human race, but she should still be able to have a child in that form. It's not like it's an illusion, it's her physical body, so there shouldn't be any problems. All that's left is to grow up and then you can conceive a child. It would take about another 500 years or so, then she and he would do it. Soma asked if she had granted his wish and if she knew what he wanted. The girl knew that he wished to use magic. He replied that there was a catch. He can't use magic and figured that was why she had called him. But she just heard him say he wanted to go to the labyrinth. The girl had no idea. She asked permission to look around it. She can see all the abilities of any person. Then Soma was okay with it. The girl began to analyze his abilities. A large number of them opened before her. There could be no mistake, the skill was there. But suddenly Isekai'd realized what was the matter. It is possible that he can never learn magic. That's what it said. Soma didn't think that was a problem. More precisely, he asked if she was sure that it would definitely hinder him. Her skill evaluation, one could say, allows one to foresee a person's future. So now his confidence will fade away and he will be completely down. And it was all because of her. She realized that even if he continued, what she saw was the truth. It turns out that in the end, he can't use magic. Soma didn't understand her fault. The girl replied that when she reborn him, she gave him her skill. It was seen as tampering with his body, and now he could not develop physical and magical skills. In other words, she had ruined everything. The boy still didn't see any problem. He realized from the beginning that he wouldn't be able to use magic. But since he recognized the reason, it was even a step forward. So, she has nothing to worry about at all. Especially, she had already done a lot by rebirthing him in this world. The girl decided that he would still have a baby with her, but Soma didn't understand why he would even want to do so. 10th floor of the labyrinth. They got there without too much trouble. Soma inquired for how much. Only an hour had passed, half the time Hildegard expected. He passed the exam without any problems. As Soma realized, because she reincarnated him, he can't use magic. But he doesn't regret where he ended up because of all this. It would be foolish to complain. Or is he already complaining? Soma decided that he didn't need to think about it for now. He would be able to use magic safely. But if it wasn't for that forbidding skill, he might even feel a little resentful. Come to think of it, such a difficult path suits him better. His hands itched with impatience. Just like with the swordsman's path, he just needs to put in even more effort than before. Magic Polygon. Aina met Soma and asked what he was doing here. Soma just wanted some inspiration, so he didn't come here to practice. What are they doing? Aina replied that they were mostly practicing. Someone was not happy to see Soma here. Soma didn't even know him. They thought he had gotten off on the wrong foot today. The student was going to take revenge on him. Aina said that Lars Hofmestar was the rightful heir to his family. He was so confident at the ceremony. But in the end, Soma won and he was left with nothing. This is the first time Soma hears about this family, which was strange. He turned his attention to Aina's new friend, Helen. He asked if she was alright. Isn't Aina threatening her? Doesn't hold her in bondage? Helen replied that she was fine. Aina was actually a good friend. He informed her that Aina could sometimes pull something awful, but she had to put up with it. Aina reminded him that she was still standing in front of him. To him, this girl looks weak. Aina is much stronger than any ordinary mage. Maybe she saw potential in her. A few days later, there were many people here. Today was the first day of exploring the labyrinth, all the groups here. It couldn't be helped, but Helen thought it would be better if there were fewer people. Everyone is banding together. We have to be done by the end of today. And they go in on a first come, first served basis, so everybody's in a hurry. The faster you get organized, the faster you get into the maze. Well, they don't have to gather people, do they? They'll wait and then we can go. The group should consist of 4 to 6 people. There's already 3 of them here, just the last one left. Sheila will be the 4th. Lena decided to be the 5th. But Soma told her to go back to work. She's a teacher, doesn't she have other things to do? She realized that they would be his group. Soma thought it was easiest with people he knew. She certainly understands, but he shouldn't be in a group with Aina. Soma thought that there were no restrictions when forming a group. Camille explained that if they were together, could it really be called training? She decided to come in case she needed to explain everything. She informed that Soma and Sheila are forbidden to team up with others from the vanguard, and Aina is forbidden to team up with others from the rearguard. They realized that Aina should only work together with the vanguard and Sheila only with the rearguard. If they team up with someone with the same role as them, they just won't let them show themselves. They won't leave them with anything. Soma replied, okay, those two, but he's actually a mage. The girl asked where he had seen such magic. Aina accepted the situation and decided to go look for a group. Need to find herself 3 people for the vanguard before it's too late. So did Sheila. Soma realized that he needed to search as well. Was there anyone left? Lena wondered why no one wanted to team up with her brother. She thought that he should attract a lot of people. On the contrary, Camille explained that everyone knew those 2 had special skills, while almost nothing was known about Soma. That was the difference. This frustrated her. Soma wasn't going to give up. We need to keep searching. He asked if Helen had decided who she was going with. He thought she was still standing here because she wanted to team up with him. Was he wrong? It seemed to Helen that she would be ballast for him, but he didn't see why she would be a hindrance to him. He was the one no one wanted to team up with, and with her he wanted to team up at once. Soma suggested that she unite with him. She relies on him. Helen doesn't know whether to speak, but there's someone standing there looking at him intently. Soma notices, too. He asks him to tell him his name. Lars said his name and offered to memorize it already. But Soma pointed out that this was actually the first time he was telling him his name, and informed him that they were here looking for someone to join the group. Lars realized that he wanted him to join, but he doesn't know he's been called to other groups too. Soma decided to look for someone else, and Lars immediately agreed to join. There was one more person left, but almost everyone had already dispersed to their groups. Lars turned his attention to the one who was left alone. They noticed a girl standing all alone. Soma decided to try to approach. Helen was also okay with this, and then Soma would approach her and talk to her. He suggested that Sylvia join their group. He invites her to join their group. However, if she has already found a group or if she is against it, he does not force her. but the princess was fine with it. Everyone is happy to have her with them. Soma decided that they were going to the labyrinth with this lineup, but Sylvia doubted that the 4 of them could do it, although he is very strong. If they don't mind, Soma would like them to go with that formation. If they can't handle it, turn back around and recruit more people. Soma turned to the teacher. He informed her that they had decided to go to the maze. It turned out that the boys had decided to go first, and Sylvia thought that someone had already gone. Karin replied that this was usually the case, but this year everyone was being a little too cautious. Lars didn't understand what caution had to do with it. They're just cowards. They're such idiots. Who knows? He might be partly right. The teacher understood that of course it was important to confer before entering, but it was much better to get experience. But they can be understood too. They don't know what dangers await them there. It was time for them to go into the labyrinth. Kurt introduced himself in front of the boys, and he is from the 3rd grade middle school class. He will be their group's guide. The guys were surprised that Kurt is in middle school and looks like he's their age. Time to move out. In the maze, the boys fought goblins. Lars thanked Soma for his help. They wouldn't let that happen next time. Lars felt that his swordsmanship skills were enough. Why did he come here to learn magic as well? That's why he met this guy. Lars figured the next goblin was on him. Kurt saw that he apparently wouldn't have to get involved. Remarkable. Soma protects the rearguard, so still manages to give instructions skillfully and clearly. Since he has explored the labyrinth before, he already has the necessary experience. It seems like these 3 don't know about it. But how good are his own skills? They have dealt with all the enemies and continue to move on. Soma asked how they were. He was starting to get a little tired. Lars is getting a little tired. They've been here for an hour. Sylvia agreed. Helen feels like she's starting to run out of steam, but it is possible to go forward a little more. Then Soma suggested that they continue, just not to overdo it. They were met by only 1 goblin, which Lars decided to deal with himself. But Soma did it for him. He said he did it by accident. The goblin was alone, and he decided to deal with him quickly. Lars thought there was no point in fighting over it, but the next one was his. Soma asked to be more careful. It became clear to Kurt. Hobgoblins are the higher, larger species of goblins. It's not particularly strong, but it shouldn't be on the 1st floor of the labyrinth. Did Soma really do it by accident? Kurt thought it would be boring, but it looks like he can have some fun. This weekend, the maid found the princess lying around again, and she even opened her eyes today. Is this how ladies behave? In her hand was a novel written by Lady Sylvia, where she herself is the main character. The princess immediately snatched it up. It seemed cute to the girl. If she was serious, Sylvia wouldn't hide anything from her. The princess thought that she was wasting her skills. Sylvia noticed that she used to be kinder and nicer. The maid didn't know what she meant. She's still a cutie. The princess had forgotten she had always been like this. She inquired why Maria had come. The girl replied that it was obviously to make the bed. And not only that, it seemed to her that Sylvia was in a bad mood, so she decided to cheer her up. She assumed something had happened at the academy, and the girl confirmed it. The princess asked if she had any talent in her at all. Maria decided to give her some advice. She shouldn't say such a thing in front of others. It could end badly for her. To be honest, after saying such things, she herself feels like punishing her. Universal mastery at an intermediate level. She realized that it was useful to possess any skill at a medium level. Many people in the academy already possessed advanced level skills. How could she even compare to them? Even people who specialized in one thing and had the same average level as her were stronger than her. Maria thinks that she doesn't have to worry about that. She is much stronger than she thinks she is. The girl thought she was right. The maid didn't think her words mattered. She wouldn't listen to her anyway, so she can do as she sees fit. Sylvia is allowed to go home once every 2 weeks, but that's because she's royalty. But she must not enjoy the privileges, she must change. She will be lonely without her, but because everyone is trying so hard, so Sylvia must also give her best. Maria told Mistress to give her best. The princess wanted Soma to teach her all sorts of things. Soma did not realize what things, and he felt that she was putting him to the test. Sylvia called it his revenge for inviting her into his group. Lena decided that he had done something wrong again. He asked what she wanted to know. Sylvia wants to learn as much as she can to be more useful. First, she wants to know how to go through the maze. She would like to know his opinion about this lesson in principle. Soma can list some points to pay attention to. One should always be alert and expect the worst case scenario. Sylvia remembered that they had been told this before class. After all, they could find themselves in a dangerous situation at any moment. If he said that, then it was possible. Soma replied that he had only been in the maze once, so he doubted he could fully experience what lay ahead of them. Lena wondered if it was really possible. What she wanted to say was useless to explain. Lena realizes as if her brother might have a problem, and if they do, he will have no problem dealing with them. She doesn't think they'll be able to experience the maze. Sheila concludes that only without Soma will they be able to get the experience they need. The boy believed that even he was not capable of doing everything at once. In practice, things rarely turned out the way they expected them to. Sylvia agreed with him. Soma knew that something bad usually happened. Such things are impossible to predict when going to an unknown place. It was only natural that it would be something worse than the worst-case scenario built on the information they knew. Sylvia thought it was pointless to assume even the worst-case scenario, but he explained that this meant that one should not prepare for the worst. One should always assume the worst-case scenario and also be prepared for something beyond that scenario to happen. It's important to be ready to act no matter what happens. He said not to forget that. Sylvia thanked him for teaching her. Soma really isn't sure it's useful information. However, in order to achieve the best possible scenario, one must first think of all the possible options. Fortunately, the three here have special skills. If they can teach her anything, she should speak up and not be shy. Sylvia will look forward to. Each showed her their skills. The second lesson in the maze. Soma realized that the lessons had not been in vain. The princess admitted to being a little surprised, but she had tried her best. Helen thinks that's where this result comes from. Lars thought that she should have been able to do it all anyway. Sylvia admitted he was right and apologized. He didn't understand what she was apologizing for. The princess remembered an incident when he had covered for her and she couldn't defend herself. She apologized for that. Soma thought she was wrong. Helen didn't think Lars wanted her to apologize for anything at all. Sylvia realized that it was strange to apologize when you were being helped, so she thanked him. Lars thought, you didn't have to say that. He told them to stop talking. They were still in the maze, to which Soma agreed. Training result. On the second day, they went up to the second floor. On average, you don't get used to the first floor until the third run, and on about the fourth run they reached the second floor. In addition, they could have gone down as early as the third, but they took their time and practiced on the second. The monsters on the third floor are different from the monsters on the second floor. They quickly deal with those who came there unprepared. The third floor always has the highest number of casualties. Overconfidence gained on the second floor leads to terrible consequences, and it looks like they relax too. Interesting. Kurt is glad he got this group. Soma entered the maze boss room. He asked if Hildegard was alright. All she wants him to do is just reach the end of the dungeon. Soma suggested that there must be some treasure there, but she replied that it was quite the opposite. A fragment of the evil god's power. That's what's sealed deep within the dungeon. He didn't understand what she was after. World domination. He would just have to inform his father and King Alexis. The girl replied that he didn't. How did he even come to that conclusion? In any case, it sounded more like bad news to him, but according to her, it wasn't like that at all. She decided to explain. The power that leaks out of the fragment becomes the cause of monsters mutating into stronger individuals. But if you killed those mutated monsters, the leaked power would disappear. The reason why the fragment was sealed inside was to gradually weaken that power. The lower you went down, the stronger the mutated monsters would be. That's why only half of the 100 floors of the dungeon have been explored. Anything lower is considered too dangerous. Soma realized that the monsters below had become too strong. And since then, the power is no longer absorbed by the new monsters, it overwhelms the higher floors. And at times, dangerous monsters begin to appear on the shallow floors. But fortunately, Soma showed up just as the situation worsened. So she wants him to go down deeper and deeper and kill monsters. That was the plan. But at this rate, it looks too easy. They're already on the 85th floor. If she were in his shoes, the boy wondered if she would massacre all the monsters with one attack. The girl hesitated for a moment. With the power of bygone days, she is basically a special class. In any case, they are quite deep, we have to be very careful. Soma asked what she was going to do if he didn't come. Hildegard said that she would have to ask his parents and some famous adventurers to accompany her. All the other teams go down to the dungeon. But since this guy isn't here, they can go. Helen realized that there was nothing to do. She heard he took a leave of absence because the director wanted to ask him for a favor. Lars knows, but a personal request from the principal. What the hell is going on with him? Sylvia is also resigned to it and suggested that they go and practice to get ready for the next descent. But there were only 3 of them, so it was impossible. Lars thought about another option. Since he hadn't done anything for the rest of yesterday's descent, it would be okay if they stuck to the first floor, right? The others had their doubts, but it doesn't seem impossible or anything. Kurt doesn't think it will be impossible if there are 3 of them. But isn't that a bit reckless? Turns out he was here, too. He had to stop by the academy on business, and then he saw the guys. He asked if they were serious about going. Lars thought maybe it was too reckless, but Kurt reassured him he would guide them, and he wondered how far they would get without Soma's help. They have permission from the academy. He will take the responsibility and accompany them. They have searched a lot, but they never found a treasure that would allow Soma to use magic. They found some grimoires, but Soma is one of those who don't want to learn magic the easy way. They didn't understand why the atmosphere was so tense. The principal and Soma were approached by an agitated Camille. It turned out that Sylvia was nowhere to be found. Kurt apologized, it was his fault. Those three were doing well, and he thought he could back them up in the worst case scenario. But as soon as they entered the third floor, the principal suggested they leave it alone for now and see what they could do about it. She asked Kurt to take her to the place where he had last seen her. Isekai'd was frightened, thinking the girl was on the 40th floor. The last record of descent the teacher can recall is the 30th floor. That would be suicide even if they got all the instructors together. Also, there are bosses every 10 floors. There is no way she can stand on the 40th floor. The only ones who have a chance are Camille, Lena, and the principal. But going against the boss with only 3 people, even if they can somehow fight them, there's still no way to reach her. The doors to the 40th floor should already be locked. This is a feature that prevents multiple groups from entering at once. If they go the usual way, they won't be able to save Sylvia. Soma decided that it looked like the discussions were over, so why don't they start moving out? And Helen wondered where. Soma was going to the 40th floor and saw no problem. He asked Isekai'd to escort him. Knowing her, she would probably know the fastest way here. The principal was going to ask him anyway. Could she rely on him? About the barrier, she means. Soma knew they could just cut it. He decided to choose someone else. Soma asked Dana and Lena to follow him. Dana doubted that he even needed their help. Maybe not, but he thought it best to have them. He asked Camille to lead everyone still in the dungeon outside. He is afraid that something bad might happen. Since one of the students had gotten into unexpected trouble, she knew it was best to order everyone back. Soma will be under her care. To think that he would have to act so quickly. He didn't expect the principal to be able to detect her being on the 40th floor. But do they seriously hope that they can rescue her with just this squad? The reason is that there are 2 celestial lines out of 7. 1 or 2. There's also someone here who can kill the demon general. By chance, is it not him? If so, how interesting. The stranger decided to leave that aside. It was time to get to the plan. Sylvia didn't understand why this happened. Is it her fault? Is it because it's the 3rd floor? Had she gotten too involved in magic? It was her mistake that she relied on the abilities of others. She overestimated herself. She's so useless. The princess wanted to be useful to this country. She wanted to be useful to those she called her family. To learn magic. To enter the Royal Academy. But when she came here, there were so many people better than her at everything. She was horrified. The princess hoped he wouldn't notice her. But suddenly the wall beside her broke through. She couldn't believe it. The princess decided she would die here. But she was told that she wasn't going to die anytime soon, so she shouldn't worry. Soma became her savior. The cloaked man admitted that this academy wasn't that bad. In fact, he even liked it. But it seemed to be the end. A fragment of the evil god's power, right? It was strange that no one had come back yet. Then why did it happen like that? Aina guesses that they found it hard to return. Sylvia really apologizes for that. Sheila was obviously not happy about it. The voices of those who seemed to be carrying the man were heard. The principal thought she had told them not to go into the maze. Helen was very concerned and informed Soma about the injured man. They found Kurt with irreparable injuries. This is the academy's view of the incident. First, Kurt had fallen from the 3rd floor. Soma found it very hard to believe that a 3rd grader had blundered on the 3rd floor. Perhaps someone whose intentions are far from benevolent is involved here. And at the same time, Lars, one of the suspects in the Sylvia teleportation case, had disappeared. Right now, Lars is a suspect in 2 cases at once. These are not 2 separate incidents. They are connected and part of an even larger chain. First, according to the Sylvia teleportation case, Lars is suspected of harming Sylvia. It is natural to think so, especially given the circumstances that Soma was told by Helen. Sylvia alone, who was in the guard, was the only one who noticed the trap. Not to mention that the trap had forcibly teleported only one person. It's all very well done to consider it a mere coincidence. It's hard to believe that such a trap would have been left on the 3rd floor, despite careful investigation and verification. It is natural to suspect her party comrades first and foremost. If the culprit was from her side, they could have escorted her to the trap. There were many ways to pull this off, and yet one of her comrades was found fatally wounded. and the injuries on his face directly indicated that he had been devoured by the monster. But his right arm seemed to have been broken by a human, and the suspect disappeared as if he was running away from something. It's pretty clear that he is the culprit. Kurt must have realized Lars's intent, but was attacked by him when he wanted to interrogate. This was most likely the case. But how could Kurt have lost to Lars? Kurt was the strongest in high school. How could a freshman beat such a strong man? Lars's family are high-ranking aristocrats. Perhaps he used some rare magic weapon. He probably set up a teleportation trap for the same reason. If he really is the culprit, that's the most reasonable explanation. The difference in strength is understandable. The question is his purpose. In Sylvia's case, he was clearly trying to kill her. Hildegard can understand if he was just trying to kidnap her, but that is clearly not the case. Why would he want to kill the one who stands farthest down the line of succession? There's no proof, but she thinks it has something to do with that case with the heretic. He said that after all they would become fragments of the god of evil. Although it is not shown publicly, Soma has been involved in a succession of cases involving them. He realizes that they have become more active, right? Soma agreed with her. They were on the 90th floor of a labyrinth that needs to be traversed quickly. The boy fought the main boss. The threat from the 90th floor boss has been destroyed. One obstacle to obtaining the fragments of the god of evil has disappeared. They decided to clear the map to walk on the safe side. Hildegard would be in trouble if something happened. It would be difficult to clear the entire maze in today, but they should reach the bottom tomorrow, so they should hurry. The skeleton disappeared, and the man in the robe didn't understand what it all meant. Of course, the skeleton is weaker than the dragon of evil. No, but if that's the case, he must be lucky. Real presence doesn't work on this floor, so he wouldn't be able to defeat the skeleton. He wondered how he could overpower him, and he was defeated without any input from him. All that was left was the last key. Sylvia didn't understand why she didn't have the stamina to calmly report and straighten out the trap when she discovered it. It was so depressing. It later turned out that it wasn't a teleportation trap. It's very different from the magical teleportation tools the headmaster has. Soma had seen her use it too, but its appearance was definitely different. Sylvia wondered how Soma could have witnessed such a scene. He replied that they used her to skip the 50th floor. Hildegard reminded him that it was supposed to remain a secret. She thought if only Sylvia knew about it, it would be alright. But even the princess didn't think she was capable of such. The principal explained that because they had missed floors, the boss of level 40 was still alive. She apologized for that, but Sylvia thought it was unnecessary. It turned out that it was a trap that steals a certain formula and activates it. And that formula is very similar to teleportation. It must have been very lucky for Sylvia to have fallen into that trap if it wasn't for her. She and Helena would have ended up like Kurt or dead. In the end, there was nothing she could do. The princess was handed a box that didn't look like a magical instrument. Sylvia decided it was for her. It contained a letter and Maria's hoop. She recognized the hoop she had given Maria and took out the letter. The princess did not understand what it all meant. She had no choice but to go. The letter instructed her to go to the 3rd floor of the labyrinth, where she would discover a trap. If she uses a mid-level presence concealment, she will be able to go to it herself. Sylvia realized that she needed to go inside. It hadn't been that long since their last meeting, but as it was, it had been a long time since they had seen each other. It was here that Kurt met her. Sylvia remembered that Kurt was on the verge of death. He's glad he was able to surprise her. It had been worth all the obstacles he'd gone through. But truth be told, he thought it was pretty obvious. She could be so easily fooled if she didn't even notice such obvious things. The guy thinks it applies to him. Kurt noticed that he was speaking in that obnoxious tone of voice again, however, as usual. What was his former self thinking, speaking in such a tone? The princess wanted to make sure it was Kurt. The guy was surprised that she couldn't tell just by looking at him, but she thought he was hospitalized. Kurt explained that the guy was not him. Finally, she noticed. That guy has the same height as him, so he just put his clothes and ID on him. To let themselves be fooled by such a simple ruse, they are so naive. But it definitely simplifies things for him, so that was helpful. Kurt decided to stop spoiling the show. Didn't she have anything else to worry about? Sylvia found Maria tied up next to her. He asked not to worry since he had not hurt her. On the contrary, she had wounded him, as expected of one who serves royalty. When she realized everything, she tried to bite off her own tongue, all without a shadow of hesitation. The guy even hurt his hand because of it. She's not dead. He wants her to listen to his demands. The princess asks what he wants from her. Kurt replied, nothing substantial. She just has to drop her blood here, on this black pearl that lies on the altar. Sylvia didn't understand why. The guy didn't see a single reason why he should answer her. If she refused, they would both die. The princess did as he commanded. Immediately afterward, darkness descended over them. To tell the truth, he was doubtful about it, but to think that the seal would open just from that. She's a member of the royal family, has she still not been told about this? Here is where the fragment of the god of evil is located. And the last key needed to break the seal was the royal blood. The guy didn't expect the power to be so much. The power of the god of evil. With this much power, he would be able to do anything. And now he decided to try this power. But in an instant, something took away his limbs. Soma is shocked at how predictable he is. In fact, he is very disappointed. Isekai'd thought there was nothing easier than dealing with predictable people. Although he would be the only one to say something like that after all he's seen here. Letting your guard down will be your undoing. Soma believes that expression applies to everyone. Soma's appearance came as a surprise to Sylvia. It had been a long time since they'd seen each other. For Isekai'd, the time flew by. Kurt agreed that he had been careless. He shouldn't have made his presence known. And now he wondered how much they knew. Soma knew from the moment he saw the body that it was Lars. However, he hadn't said anything about it to the others. Kurt realized that he was the one who had been fooled, not them. He admitted that the head wasn't his strongest side. But it didn't matter, because what happens next is going to be very simple. Soma didn't understand how he was going to put this down. Kurt has no sense of beauty at all. The monster was surprised that those were his first words after seeing this creature. Or maybe he says it to drown out his fear. Soma would want to be sure of something. The reason Kurt came here is to master that power, right? The monster confirmed it and realized that Soma was the one who had defeated all the bosses. He is grateful for that. Soma had helped him break one of the seals. But he knew that, more specifically, Isekai'd had told him. After all, their goal was this power. The monster was surprised. But it would be more accurate to say that Kurt helped them a lot in this. Even if they broke the seal, power is an ambivalent substance. To dispel it, they need the power to reside in someone else's body. Kurt realized they were just using him to their advantage. But they were wrong about one thing. They had underestimated the power of the god of evil. The power of the god of evil is death and destruction. But this is just a piece of that power, and so such abilities can't be activated. Although the power of that piece is enough to bring some other powers to life. Sylvia didn't understand how the two of them could act so carefree. Soma realized that after all, it was just a piece of power. There was no need to worry about such a small power. The principal knew that only Soma could say that. Kurt decided that they were really underestimating him. Soma decided not to waste any time. He was going to end this quickly. Kurt is going to make him sorry for underestimating him. The monster had many tentacles, which were its advantage. They were intertwined with each other, and Soma easily waded through them. The boy made many cuts across his body. Kurt couldn't believe it. This was the power of the god of evil. So why is he retreating? Soma replied that it was only a fragment of the evil god's power. First of all, he shouldn't be proud of the power he borrowed from another. Soma is done using his powers. He's going to deal with him now. The monster didn't like the fact that he was looking down on him. I mean, he had gotten so much of that power. Soma understands his desire to seek power, but the path he took to attain it is a false one. A stranger's power will always remain a stranger's power. He admitted that the monster's movements are the worst. If he was diligent, he could become a capable person. What a misfortune. Kurt thought he had power, but Soma knew it had run out. Since he wants to play it that way, then he'll play along. The monster suddenly disappeared. Soma apologized, he had blundered. But Isekai'd realized that nothing could be done. No one could have predicted that things would turn out this way. Sylvia inquired about what had happened. It was explained to her that he had removed the restraints before he died. Now that is truly insane power. If only Soma had killed him faster. Isekai'd had told him before, no one could have predicted such a thing. But this is bad. If this keeps going for a little over an hour, at worst, it will blow the whole country away. Soma thinks he has no choice. He apologized, but the rest is on them. Soma is not going to sacrifice himself at all. He just says that in case something unforeseen happens to him. The time is now, he can't foresee the outcome, and Isekai'd has realized that. But she won't explain anything to his companions, so he must go back himself and tell them everything. And her too, of course. Soma promised to give his best. Isekai'd explained to Sylvia that they had to get out of here. They said their goodbyes. Soma got down to business. He wondered how it would be. The next day, in the same place, such a thick aura of death. It's been like this all day. Amazing. Lena thinks it shows how strong the power of the evil god is. The god of evil was one of the pillars of God. He also created this world with it. She assumes it's natural. She knows that, but couldn't he give them a break? He knows she is not praising this power of the god of evil. The aura of death grows denser. Lena doesn't know what will become of anyone who falls through here inadvertently. The boss has been thoroughly investigating everything here, hasn't she? That's the kind of thing she respects her for. So does she. There's something she doesn't understand. He's not gonna ask her to come down here, is he? Thank the gods. She worried for a second. After all, even after coming here, she still doesn't understand why she was awakened. If it's the work of an evil god, no, the time gap is too big. Lena hopes it's not a bad omen. Is the older brother still alive? She went to a lot of trouble to get that information. Is he going to doubt her? He doubted that what was written in this book really had anything to do with the forest god. The girl asked him not to ask her that. She doesn't know, even though she gave him this book. She stated that only they, the elves, claim that the forest god exists. He decided that she was insulting them. She is simply stating a fact. And that is not an insult. There are only two pillars, aka gods, in this world. The god of evil and the goddess. The elf was certain that the forest god existed. That is why he is trying to find a way to make him, the one who should be about to wake up, go back to sleep. The girl doesn't doubt the existence of his forest god. She just isn't sure if it's a real god or not. Anyway, the way to seal the forest deity is described in that book. In a nutshell, he needs to sacrifice one of his friends. He probably doesn't have a single reason to hesitate. After all, this is an elven specialty. Hundreds of years ago, he did exactly the same thing to seal the god of evil. The elf was surprised she knew that. The girl thinks she's miscalculated. Unfortunately, she has her own secrets too. In exchange, she tells him something else. She knows he's harboring a witch. His reaction is expected, but too many people know about it. Even if he kills her right here, it won't change anything. The elf thought that if he let her go, it wouldn't change anything either. Isn't he right? But she replied that if he let her go, she would help spread false information. As a result, he would buy time. If he needs a victim, why not use a witch? He can kill two birds with one stone. Even if he covers her up, he still can't hide her forever. Worst case scenario, he'll have to find a new hiding place with her. She's sure the choice is clear as day. Sacrifice his entire race or one witch. He tells her to shut her mouth. The elf put the blade to her throat. She believes it is better to choose one meaningful death than many meaningless ones. Right now he is being offered the same choice, and he must decide something. She's just sharing her opinion. He doesn't have to listen to her at all. The girl asked if he would let her go. She took that to mean yes. The elf paid her and got the goods. He had no further business in common with her. The girl took this as fact and thanked him for his patronage. The plan to revive the demon lord failed. The dragon of evil was revived but soon fell. His mission to collect the fragments also failed. And the same person interfered in all of this. It's not funny anymore, though she thinks for sure no one will interfere this time. Now she wonders how long this body will last. There'll be 3 of them. They always go in 3s. Soon they'll meet, and by then she'll just do her best. Sheila and Anna meet. Anna doesn't do anything. I had to tell her she needed a break. No need to worry about her. She will be fine. She will soon have an extended vacation. She decided to do it during the break. Sheila wished she could treat like Sama. Anna replied that treatment would not work for mental exhaustion. His healing skills are above average. In addition, he was able to cure Lars and he was in a very serious condition. When she thinks about it, it seems to her that he would have been able to deal with mental exhaustion as well. Anna asked what she was going to do while on vacation. Sheila is thinking of going home. Anna figured that was where Doris was now, but she replied that it was to that forest. That's where Sheila was born and raised. She has a lot to think about after what happened. She wants to revisit everything that happened. And she also wants to improve her fencing skills so she won't be left out again. They wondered where he was now and what he was doing. He always makes them worry, so he should hurry up and come home. The witch found the young man, and in such a place, Soma realized that he had been saved by some kind person. Certainly he felt that he had cut himself. Believes he had, what is called, deflated. By the feel of it, he seemed to be overstretched, but overall it wasn't too bad. A girl peeked into the room. He realized that she had saved him. The witch had seen him lying in the field. Soma was very grateful to her. He apologized for presenting himself to her in such an unsightly manner. He can't move well. The girl replied that it was all right. It doesn't bother her at all. More importantly, had he hurt himself anywhere? She didn't see any injuries when she examined him. Soma's muscles were just a little sore, that's all. If he's causing her any discomfort, he thinks he can make himself move. The witch repeated that he wasn't bothering her. He needs to rest. They will talk again tomorrow. But Soma remembered that he should at least introduce himself. The girl also introduced herself. Her name is Felicia. She told him to rest. White hair and red eyes. She is a witch, the enemy of this world. Witches, forbidden beings that can be identified by their red eyes and white hair. a being that can plunge the entire world into chaos. If you capture it, you will receive unprecedented honor. If you harbor it, your entire family will be executed. You ask, who's capable of killing them? The Church of the Holy God. The Church of the Holy God is the most common religion in this world. 80% of the people of this world practice it. The saint who leads the church is also the fifth queen of the seventh heaven. So the saint has decided that witches are the evil of this world. You may ask why. Because they can use curse techniques. These are the unique powers of witches that can plunge the whole world into chaos. The phenomena created by curse techniques are very similar to magic. When Soma first heard about it, he was very interested in it. This is his chance to study them. In addition, he disagreed with their idea of declaring all witches as enemies of this world just because of such vague information. Soma wondered what he should do about it. Felicia realized that even though he was still a little boy, he was holding a sword. Probably tried to hunt witches here. It was probably too late to reason about it. The girl was a little concerned about how exactly he looked at her. Was she going to be killed? She would have to think about that when she crossed that bridge. Soma got up from the bed and let her enter. She inquired about his well-being. The boy replied that he was much better and told her thank you. Felicia felt that she had done almost nothing. He didn't understand what she was talking about. Not only had she saved him, but she had given him shelter and food. The girl thought, he can't say that for sure. Maybe she did it because it would be more favorable to her. She's a witch. Soma didn't expect her to open up so easily. In that case, he no longer needs to hold back. It's very fortunate for him to meet a witch. As she realized, he means that he has some business with witches. Although, it was just a coincidence that he found himself in these parts. That's what she thought. This place is called the Forest of Witches where no one can enter. Soma realized that it really existed. That explains why no one can enter here. Felicia asked him to tell her. The boy believed that this place was displaced in the spatial continuum. Hence, it is impossible to enter here from the outside. She confirmed this. As a rule, that is why no one can get in here. Soma probably came here by accident. Perhaps because he had formed a gap in space. The girl was upset. Just like he said, this place is isolated. Most likely, he won't be able to go back again. The boy will try to think of something. And besides, being stuck in an isolated space is a bit trivial compared to the fact that he met a witch. The girl wondered why he wanted to meet a witch. Soma explained that he wanted to learn curse techniques. Felicia asked why, and he explained that he wanted to use magic. She replied that even if he learns curse techniques, it is not the same as magic. Soma asked if she had any techniques that would help him master magic. But she knew it was impossible. Soma thought that perhaps learning curse techniques could be a clue to how one could master magic. Since both of these phenomena are similar in nature, the witch decided that he wanted to become an enemy of the whole world just because of that. But the boy believed that if he could use the curse techniques, it would make him a magician. He called it nonsense, but Felicia wasn't exaggerating when she said, this world would literally become his enemy. Soma can't tell how it feels until he tries it himself. Let it be, it's unlikely he'll repent. And judging by her reaction, he asked if there was any way he could be taught the curse techniques. The girl replied yes. She was preparing a potion for him, and there was no way he could wait for it to be ready. The witch asked him to sit down and come out if he continued to be so annoying. Soma thought this was going to be a problem. Felicia asked if he was sure about it. She doesn't know what will happen when he drinks the potion. At worst, he might die. Soma repeated that he is ready for that. Felicia doesn't know why she's thinking about it. She thanked for waiting. The potion is ready. He heard her say something, but the girl replied that it was all his imagination. Soma thought it had turned out badly, but according to her, she just thought it was worth changing the vial. The girl dripped her blood into the liquid and wondered if it was necessary. Now the potion was definitely ready. The fact that Soma had found the key to learning magic made him nervous. Felicia knew that it was only a possibility, so he shouldn't count on much. The boy drank the potion, but nothing happened. The witch felt embarrassed. She must have screwed something up. Soma reminded her that it was only a low possibility. Felicia mentioned her book that told her how to prepare the potion. If only she had looked in it first. The boy realized that she couldn't read. This book was written in a language only witches could understand, so it would be impossible for someone outsider to read it. But she had not inherited the ability to understand this language. Soma asked to show him the book. The girl pulled it from the shelf. It was a book of witches. If the title was written in that language, so was the rest of the book. The boy asked if she knew about the ancient holy heroes. Felicia had heard of it, but had never seen it herself. Soma figured out that judging from the first few pages, it must be a recipe for an elixir. But if you look closely, it seems to be just a collection of articles without any chronological order, and the handwriting in each article is different. This book must have been passed down through the lineage of a certain witch. Soma nodded in response to the question if he could read this book. In the morning, Soma found the girl tired. She doesn't seem to be having a good morning at all. The girl has a lot of things to check, and all this after he translated the witch's book. Soma realized that she hadn't noticed that she didn't have enough materials even yesterday, so he suggested that she put everything aside and just rest, and tomorrow he would help her gather everything she needed. Then they will do just that. The girl should have a good rest today. The boy thought there would be more ingredients. Felicia explained that this is just a forest. There should be a lot of things here, but she only knows this part of the terrain. Soma was surprised that even though people call this place the Witch's Forest, they call it that because of the fact that she lives here, not that she controls this forest. However, there aren't many monsters here that could pose a threat to her. The girl discovered a blue flower. They found it faster than Soma thought. As expected of a witch, Felicia said she was home, and the boy responded to that. It seemed strange for her to say such a thing. They had come back together after all. But Soma thought it was sad when no one was there to answer like that. She still does that even when she's alone. It's a habit. Soma just wanted to answer like that and offered to accept it. He seemed annoying to the girl. Felicia offered a snack. She figured the boy was displeased about something, but he thought she didn't eat meat and vegetables at all. The witch replied that she doesn't get them on principle. She asks people to bring her food once a month. Soma assumed that they only bring her fruit. It turned out that at first they also brought meat, but it was hard to eat and tasted bad, so she soon stopped getting meat. Soma realized that she just didn't know how to cook. Now he understands the reason for her choice of fruit. He inquired if she ever caught a cold, which the girl denied. As of tomorrow, can he go out on his own already? He told her off yesterday to get more sleep. Soma saw that they hadn't collected that much yet. Oh, and she needs a healthy sleep to be in shape. However, she can only recognize the known ingredients. Felicia found mandrake. She's sure he knows what happens if you pull them out of the ground. They will scream, and those who hear their scream will die, and so they cannot be gathered. Soma tried to get the mandrake, but it was just carried away. The girl was surprised that he was able to blow the ground away with just a stick. The boy thought it was easy. He did it. He was sorry he missed the 3. The witch replied that he should be, but it seems that he still showed something interesting on his last day. That meant Soma could leave the forest tomorrow. The girl noticed that the elf chieftain was punctual as always. He's a very busy man, and if he were late, it would affect his entire schedule. He offered to get it over with quickly. Payment for the month. Felicia thanked him, but he repeated that there was no need to thank him. It was just the price he was paying. Even so, the girl is grateful to him. She had survived for so long only because of him. He, on the other hand, was waiting for her to give the goods. The elf checked the availability of all the items. She wanted to clarify something with him. Felicia wondered what would become of a person who happened to come here. The elf didn't quite understand her. The girl replied that she was just curious. He told her that they would capture the man, and depending on the circumstances, they might kill him. She doubted that this was really necessary. She doesn't seem to fully understand the gravity of the situation if someone suddenly finds out that she lives here. No one can know she is here. Absolutely no one. This is the fate of the entire elven race. The chief satisfied her curiosity. If that is all, he will go. They said goodbye and would see each other in a month. Some outsider was interested in this guy. Felicia didn't understand what Soma was doing here. He was so interested that he couldn't help but follow her. The girl did not rule out the possibility that he might have been captured. The boy replied that he was confident in his disguise skills. He realized that his interest had not failed him. She had thought herself so naive. Soma, on the other hand, wants to learn more about the witch's book. Therefore, he didn't plan to leave even if he was given the opportunity. That's even better, so he will stay for a while. Felicia realized that he had helped her a lot, so she had nothing to complain about. They decided to work together again. But still, Nai-san seemed strange to her. Doris realized what had happened. When Sheila watches Soma, she always thinks she has a long way to go. Doris doesn't think so, but her words won't change anything. She asks Sheila not to apologize, but she is a little jealous. Something she's curious to ask. Question under the heading of what if. If she had to choose between the elves and Soma, along with the others, who would she choose? Soma inquired about the strength of the curse techniques. Come to think of it, Felicia hadn't demonstrated any to him, had she? Soma realized that she was busy preparing the medicine. Even so, it was very difficult to explain it to her. He wants to see them with his own eyes, and there's no other way. Then the girl suggested to go. Soma asked why not here. The witch replied that this place was not suitable. Besides, it was the most suitable time of the year, which again he could not understand. They made their way out onto an empty lawn. The girl used magic to summon rain. The boy marveled at her ability to manipulate the weather so easily. He now understood why witches were considered a special species. Felicia didn't think she had done anything remarkable. Soma knew that only great mages were capable of influencing the weather. Ordinary mages have no control over it. He doesn't know if a single mage can conjure such a thing on his own. The witch thinks it just depends on personality and innate ability. It's harder for her to start a fire than to do it. Still, Soma feels that the curse techniques are more akin to Haojutsu than regular magic. Felicia didn't know what it was. Based on the definition, it's not considered magic. The boy had only read about this phenomenon. You can use Haojutsu by believing in the Almighty. In other words, you can use it by praying to God. The girl realized what he meant by saying that they were similar. Definitely, curse techniques also included an element of prayer. She remembered that earlier, when they were talking about magic, hadn't he told her that people could use magic if they believed in a god? Soma explained that they could only use Haojutsu before, but now the church has started using magic to attract more believers. The world is cruel. The chief sighed about this time coming again. In the elven forest, which is filled with the power of the forest god, it does not rain. Although they can get water from rivers and springs, there are times when there is not enough. That's why they wait for a miracle. The power of the witches, which violates the laws of nature. It is an unreasonably one-sided desire. And now he's forcing them to exploit the witch even more. There is no limit to this insolence. It's nice that he feels guilty, but he can't escape it. Maybe he should get ready before it's too late. He met up with that girl again. She explained that she was just taking shelter from the rain. It started raining so suddenly. She was so surprised. She didn't know a witch could do that. The elf didn't understand what she was doing here, and most importantly, how she got here. The girl knew her motives were clear as day. To help him make a decision. She gave him a great idea, but he didn't follow it. She would be sad if his race disappeared. The chief replied that it was none of her business. He did not follow her plan, not because of guilt. Her plan did not involve failure, but he could not find the right guards for the job. The girl reported that the seal would not last another month. This is not the time to look for excuses. If he doesn't want to die, no. If he doesn't want his race to disappear, he needs to make a decision now. After all, it's only his choice. The chief understands all of this. He felt a strange sensation. Sheila wandered through the forest and realized that something was wrong. No wonder he was overcome with nostalgia. It was her. She met the tribal chief and was surprised. He thought, is it really so strange for an older brother to greet a younger sister? She thought it was strange. The tribal chief himself had come all this way just to greet her. She asked what was wrong. Her brother thought she wouldn't believe him if he said everything was fine. It must be a sign from heaven. Her return right now. In that case, as the leader of this tribe, he will do whatever is required of him. He orders Sheila to be the backbone of their village. Felicia informs him that from now on she can no longer give Soma food. She understands his feelings, but she is not done yet. She will no longer receive food. But in return, they will be able to go outside. Soma realized that this happy time has come to an end. Now that he can't get out of here, he might have to destroy the elven forest. The girl asked him not to do that. Is he not listening at all? She said about them. Soma assumed that she had said about him. Felicia apologized for not consulting him. The boy didn't mind, but it was strange that they'd let him. He was sure he couldn't get out of here peacefully. She reported that something serious had happened. Soma figured something more serious than hiding a witch. Looks like she'll have to deal with it in exchange for getting out of here. Soma doubted she could handle it on her own. Elves are strong enough to create these kinds of places. Would she be able to solve a problem that even elves can't handle? Felicia realized that they wouldn't have asked her then. True, they had not explained anything to her. The boy didn't understand how she was going to solve something she didn't even know about. In any case, he didn't think it was any larger in scale than Hildegard. The girl decided that he wanted to help her. Soma thought it was obvious. She realized that this deal only binds her. He doesn't have to do it. Soma might not do it, but they're in trouble, right? He has no obligation to help the elves, but he has reasons to help her. He seems to help her more than she helps him. Felicia understands. However, he only asks to save her when she can't manage on her own. Soma agrees. The chief realized who she was asking about. The boy apologized for the inconvenience, and he replied that it was all right. Besides, he should be the one to speak. In any case, the elf suggested that they hurry. They didn't have much time. He would explain the details later. Soma became convinced that something serious had happened. At the festival, one of the locals approached him. He didn't understand how on such a cheerful bright day he could be so unhappy. He says so, but Soma is not aware of what has happened. What a reason to be happy, the elf wondered. Who let him in here in the first place? His answer was rather rude, but he would only turn a blind eye to it today. The elf asked him to repeat what he had said. Soma asked what the occasion of the banquet was. Today is the day they show their gratitude and offer prayers to the forest deity. But today is only the eve of the festival. Soma had never heard of the forest deity. The elf had expected it. No one but the elves know of him. The forest god gives them power. If he says so, then he really does exist. Soma asked how often they held the festival. The elf doesn't really know. The last one was held before he was born. He thinks every few hundred years. The boy realizes why it is such a grand festival. He guesses that's the reason why he was allowed to attend the festival, even though the elves don't like outsiders. The elf thinks he is right. If it weren't for the festival, none of the outsiders would have been invited. Soma seems to have been lucky. At last there's a major star. It was Felicia.